Rebuilding the Immortal Cultivation family. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 751 Reaction. Looking at the reaction of the Zhuanbing sect, they should not doubt the authenticity of this matter. Li Wenli had been secretly observing Bingayan and others at the ceremony, and did not see any clues. Moreover, they were received by him personally, and he did not say a word to other members of the Li family along the way. Li Wenli's character and ability were beyond doubt, so everyone naturally believed what he said. As long as the news of Li Zhirui's retreat to break through the spirit transformation is not leaked, and with the various measures discussed before, no one should interfere with his breakthrough. Even if he later noticed something was wrong, it was too late. When all parties arrived, Li Zhirui would either die or become a spirit transformation master. But my father's retreat this time, in the eyes of outsiders, is a breakthrough to the late nascent soul stage. If the retreat is too long, it will still arouse suspicion. Li Shengsheng frowned. Zhang Fengwu seemed to have other things in mind, and said disapprovingly, "Don't worry about this matter. In a few years, I will transform into Zhirui's appearance and walk around the family, and those rumors will be broken by themselves. Whether Zhirui can successfully break through is a family event, which concerns the survival of the family, so please keep it a secret and don't tell anyone. Don't worry, we will never let anyone destroy the family's plan." Li Wenli and other elders hurriedly stood up and promised. "With you here, I can't be more relieved." Li Wenli and others were humble and said they didn't deserve it. Zhang Fengwu looked at the time and said, "You are all busy with official duties, so I won't bother you anymore." Then he took Li Chengsheng and Li Changshu away. "Mom, do you think there are people in the family who have been bribed?" Walking on the last path on the top of the mountain, Li Changshu suddenly had a bold idea. Zhang Fengwu's reaction was very calm. He glanced at a brother and sister and said, "Of course, whether it is promising them huge benefits or threatening their lives, there must be such people in such a large family, and they can't stop it, unless the Li family really completely closes off Banyan Island and does not allow the clan members to communicate with the outside world. There is no way to completely stop this situation. But this is simply unrealistic. The Li family cannot support thousands of clan members to cultivate immortals and seek the Tao by themselves. Not to mention the Li family, even those big forces have spies and undercovers, don't they? As long as they are not allowed to get involved in the top and control the power, it will be fine. In this regard, the various forces do have many means to detect whether the cultivators are loyal. Of course, there are still occasional omissions. What should I do?" Li Changshu panicked for a while. When Li Zhirui broke through the late nascent soul that day, many clan members knew about it. Although the family later asked them to keep it secret and even prevented them from leaving Banyan Island, they also knew the severity of the matter and did not spread it privately, and stayed at home honestly. But with hundreds of people, no secret can be hidden. Maybe someone took advantage of this grand ceremony to pass the news to the Zhuanbing sect and other forces. "Don't worry, Zhirui has already thought of a countermeasure." Zhang Fengwu smiled mysteriously, but did not tell Li Zhirui's plan, and said, "We have arrived at the cave, you can go back." Li Changshu wanted to ask what the solution was, but was almost slapped by the door that closed quickly. Knowing that his mother would not explain, he could only withdraw his steps helplessly. "Brother, do you know?" Li Chengsheng seemed to be thinking about something, but in the end he shook his head and did not say his guess out loud. He comforted him, "Don't worry, with Dad's intelligence, such a small matter will definitely not be difficult for him, but even if Dad is extremely smart, what does it mean in front of absolute strength?" Thinking of the old story that when someone from the Zhuanbing sect broke through the god transformation, the demon clan almost came out in full force to stop it, Li Changshu couldn't help but shudder. How could Mom and Dad not know? But since Dad is still in seclusion, it means he must have thought of a way to deal with it. We just need to wait patiently. There will always be a time when we two brothers and sisters can be of use. Under Li Chengsheng's comfort, she slowly calmed down and said with a firm face, "Brother, you are right. I will go back and practice hard, and I will improve my strength as much as possible." After that, he ran away in a hurry. Looking at his sister's back, Li Chengsheng shook his head with some amusement. Although she has matured a lot, she is still the straightforward Li Changshu in front of her family. "Junior brother Bingayan, is this the news you brought back?" The head of the sect looked at a jade slip with only a dozen words engraved on it for a long time, and asked with a gloomy face. Bingayan thought of the content in the jade slip, and was shocked and angry. He never expected that Li Zhirui's seclusion this time was not to break through the late nascent soul stage, but to transform into a spirit. In other words, this matter had been concealed from Zhuanbing's sect and others for decades. If it weren't for this grand ceremony, they would probably not know it until Li Zhirui broke through. This Li family is really good at tricks, the head of the sect said sinisterly. At the beginning, I persuaded the elders to recapture Taixishao and then continue to go south to weaken the Li family, but the elders were timid and did not dare to start a war. In the end, they created such a result. I don't know if they will regret it in their hearts. Even now, when he talked about this, he was full of anger. The faces of the elders sitting on both sides were not very good, as if they were embarrassed and frightened. It was very complicated. One was that the news was sudden, and everyone was shocked and angry, and the other was the words of the head of the sect that humiliated them. But they did make a big mistake. They wanted to argue a little, but they didn't know how to start, so they had to remain silent. I don't know if the elders have any solution now. The head of the sect did not intend to let them go, and he suddenly realized that this was an excellent opportunity to control the decision-making power of the sect. The elders looked at each other. The incident happened suddenly, and they really couldn't think of any good ideas for a while. Why don't we gather the disciples now and attack Taixishao? When he breaks through, we can directly break through Wangxin Island and disrupt his breakthrough. An elder broke the silence. Idiot, the head of the sect shouted loudly. Do you really think that Taixishao is a small force that can easily defeat the demon clan? If Li Zhirui is breaking through during the war with the demon clan, can we get out of it? If not, won't we have to watch him achieve the status of a god? The elder who was scolded blushed immediately. If there was a crack in the ground, he would have wanted to get into it immediately. Then I wonder what good ideas the head of the sect has. All elders, please stand by in the sect. Follow my orders at any time, the head of the sect said solemnly. I will arrange people to find out the news of the Li family at all times. As long as Li Zhirui shows signs of a breakthrough, we will immediately rush to Wangxin Island. At all costs, we will disrupt Li Zhirui's tribulation. Chapter 752 Exposed. Zhirui, are you leaving now? Zhang Fengwu looked at Li Zhirui, who came out of retreat early, and asked anxiously, is it really okay? Don't worry, Nanai Chamber of Commerce is based on business. How could they attack me for no reason? I am not incapable of paying off my debts. From the beginning, Li Zhirui had no intention of retreating on Wangxin Island to break through the God of Transformation. Because he knew that the news of his breakthrough to the late Yuanying stage could not be concealed forever, and one day it would be known by all forces. From this day on, they will pay special attention to the movements of the Li family. When Li Zhirui crosses the tribulation, no matter how well the family prepares, it will be useless. Without sufficient strength, they can't resist the obstruction of Zhuanbing's sect and the demon clan. And there is a high probability that they will destroy the Li family. Although humans and demons are mortal enemies of race and it is impossible to join forces, and even Zhuanbing's sect will take the initiative to retreat to avoid being involved with a demon clan, even if there is only the Great Snow Mountain demon clan, the Li family is not a match. So for the sake of his own life and the family's wealth, Li Zhirui can only leave Wangxin Island to break through. In the wild? Impossible. Not to mention the safety issue, he needs rich spiritual energy when he breaks through, which is difficult to satisfy in the wilderness. After all, such places have been occupied for a long time. How can they be empty? Then there are only various immortal cities and markets. In order to prevent people from disturbing his breakthrough, he thought of the caves that are specially rented out to provide closed-door guardians. This is indeed a very good idea, which provides convenience to many cultivators. The disadvantage is that the price is not cheap, and many cultivators can't afford it at all. However, you can choose to serve for a certain number of years to repay the spiritual stones, but Li Zhirui doesn't want to waste time on this, so he brought all the spiritual stones that he exchanged for the top-grade spiritual stones in the family. And choosing this is also exquisite. The spiritual veins of small families are too low in grade and can't bear his breathing and absorption. After screening, there are only two options left, Zhuanfa Pavilion and Nanaya Chamber of Commerce. In other words, his option from beginning to end is only one, that is, Nanaya Chamber of Commerce. Zhuanfa Pavilion is too close, and it is hard to guarantee that someone will not secretly spread the news. However, Nanaya Chamber of Commerce is different. Its headquarters is in the South region, which is far enough away and will not meddle in the affairs of the East region. I'll leave the family to you. I will definitely come back within 30 years, Li Zhirui solemnly entrusted. He felt sorry for Jiang Fengwu. Many times, she had to sacrifice her cultivation time to take care of the family for him. After I break through the spirit transformation, the family will not have so many trivial matters, and you can practice with peace of mind at that time. Let's talk about this later. Now you should focus on your own cultivation. Breaking through as soon as possible is the most important thing. Jiang Fengwu chattered more about a lot of trivial things, and it can be seen that she was still very uneasy in her heart. Li Zhirui listened patiently and did not interrupt. Instead, he waited until she finished speaking before saying in a gentle voice, I'm leaving. Don't see me off, so as not to be noticed by some people with ulterior motives. If Shenzhe and Shu'er ask, you just tell the truth, so that they can help you share some pressure. Then, he hid his figure, left Banyan Island through the secret tunnel, and disappeared into the vast sea. Time passed day by day, and for 10 years, there was no movement in the quiet room where Li Zhirui was in seclusion. According to the script, Jiang Fengwu, disguised as Li Zhirui, showed up several times during this period and publicly declared that he had broken through to the late nascent soul stage. The Li family members were naturally excited because they were likely to witness the birth of an ancestor of the god of transformation. The scattered cultivators in Wangxian's Hao also talked about this matter and expressed their opinions, making it a hot topic in the city and known to everyone. The cultivators who didn't know the situation thought that Li Zhirui had already broken through to the god of transformation. Zuanbing sect master, is the news that Li Zhirui is going to break through the god of transformation deliberately released by the Li family to tease us? Isn't he showing up? An elder asked in confusion. Although the master took the opportunity to take a lot of power, the elders were not stupid and it was impossible for them to hand over their foundation. However, even so, he had a high prestige in the Zuanbing sect. Have you ever thought that this Li Zhirui is a fake? The real Li Zhirui has been in seclusion and impacting the god of transformation, the master said with an inexplicable look. They didn't think about it in this way at first, but now that they have seen it, they feel it makes sense. Don't worry, every move of the Li family can't escape my eyes. If Li Zhirui really wants to break through, I will know it at the first time. Banyan Island. Shenzhe, have you found any news? Before leaving, Li Zhirui asked Jiang Fengwu for a very important thing, which was to take the opportunity to find the clan members who were connected with other forces. But there is no need to rush to clean them up. After all, this situation is rampant. Instead of doing so, it is better to catch everyone in their own hands and deliberately pass on some false news, which is more beneficial to the Li family. Yes, the foreign affairs elders and several deacons among the elders are connected with other forces. Among them, the foreign affairs elders passed the news to the Zuanbing sect through a clan member who often went out to hunt monsters. If he was not a Yuanying's Henshin, he would have been discovered by the cautious foreign affairs elders several times when he was investigating and tracking. Li Chengsheng frowned and said, I'm afraid that Zuanbing sect has already known that it was you who pretended to be my father, and they will definitely be more certain that my father is trying to reach the god transformation stage, so it was him. You can't judge a person by his appearance. When has the family ever treated him unfairly? Jiang Fengwu's eyes flashed with a fierce light, and he wished he could kill this bastard who betrayed the interests of the family right now. Mom, he may not be the only traitor among the elders, so don't tell them about these things for the time being. This is what he felt in his heart, but there is no clue yet. I understand, but as an elder, he is actually working as a dog for another family. After this, we have to find a way to test whether they are loyal to the family. It is really shocking that an elder with high power is actually a spy. Fortunately, the Li family's protective formation has always been managed by Jiang Fengwu himself, and has never been handed over to others. If it is handed over to a bad person, she dare not imagine the consequences. I don't know how your father is doing now. I hope he can break through and return home as soon as possible. After more than a year of running around, Li Zhirui finally arrived at the headquarters of Nanaya Chamber of Commerce. Compared to the Zuanfa Pavilion, the Nanaya Chamber of Commerce is more ostentatious, with all kinds of carved beams and painted buildings, golden tiles and red walls. When the sun shines on it, it shines brightly and is so dazzling. It doesn't look like a certain immortal cultivator, but rather a mortal palace. He went to inquire about the retreat cave of the 4th level spiritual vein that day. When he heard the number from the other party, Even Li Zhirui couldn't help but say, "This price is too expensive." Chapter 753 20 years. Senior, this is a fourth-order spirit bane, and when you break through the tribulation, the Chamber of Commerce will specially arrange for the Yuanying's engine to come and protect you. This price is already very conscientious, the guy said with a smile. If it weren't for the fact that Li Zhirui was a Yuanying cultivator, he wouldn't have said that, and it was good enough that he didn't laugh at him. If I rent it for a longer time, can the price be discounted? Although he had enough spirit stones in his hand, it would be good to save some. The guy looked at Li Zhirui curiously, shook his head, and said, "Please forgive me, Senior, the Chamber of Commerce does not have such a rule." Hearing this, he stopped talking nonsense, and while counting the spirit stones, he said, "I want to rent Xianzian for 30 years, the sky, the earth, the sky." 30 years, the guy couldn't help but exclaimed, as if he realized something, and hurriedly stood up and said, "This is a matter of great importance. Please wait a moment, Senior. I'll go and ask the shopkeeper to come." He didn't even give Li Zhirui a chance to speak, and hurriedly got up and left. Soon, a Yuanying cultivator came in and said with a smile, "Dao, are you planning to break through to the God of Transformation?" "Yes, I have realized something in my heart, and I will break through in one day. But it's too far from the sect, and I can't miss this God-given opportunity, so I came to your Chamber of Commerce to rent a cave." The shopkeeper, who originally wanted to win over Li Zhirui, slightly restrained his mouth when he heard this. He originally thought that he was an extraordinary casual cultivator, but he didn't want to rely on the sect, so his idea of trying to pull people into the Nanya Chamber of Commerce was shattered, but the friendship of a God of Transformation was still very precious, so he still maintained a warm and friendly attitude. The reason why Li Zhirui lied about the sect was that compared to the family, the sect had a stronger restraint and it was impossible for disciples to join other forces. But it is different for the family. After some discussion and giving some benefits, it is not impossible to become a worshipper of the Nanya Chamber of Commerce. If it is replaced by a Yuanying from a family with insufficient foundation, he may really be tempted. After all, joining the Nanya Chamber of Commerce is more beneficial to his own development. For example, the method and cultivation resources are at least much easier to obtain. However, Li Zhirui has no lack of the most important skills. The Wanling Sutra can be cultivated to the early stage of the fusion realm. Secondly, he has his own ideas about cultivation resources. He can start researching after breaking through the spirit transformation. Dao is in a critical period, so I won't bother you too much. The rent of the Xianzi courtyard you plan to rent has regulations. I can't reduce it, but I can arrange to rent the courtyard with the most abundant spiritual energy to Dao. When you break through the tribulation, I will also arrange a few more Yuanying Dao to help protect the law. The shopkeeper was also tactful. He didn't talk for too long, and took the initiative to say goodbye and left, and at the same time sold a small favor to Li Zhirui. "Thank you, fellow Taoist. I will definitely repay you for this friendship in the future." Did the shopkeeper do so much just for this promise? When he breaks through, he will be a god. It goes without saying how precious this favor will be. "I won't bother you anymore. I wish you all the best and achieve godhood. Thank you for your good words." Li Zhirui bowed slightly and left with a J token he received after paying for the goods. The caves rented by the Nanya Chamber of Commerce are all on a mountain in the west of the Immortal City, and the Xianzi No. 9 courtyard he rented is built on a spiritual cave on the top of the mountain. It is indeed a place with rich spiritual energy. The following days were extremely dull. He was immersed in cultivation. Even though 10 years had passed and there was still no movement, his heart was still as calm as water and he was not disturbed. You know, when Li Zhirui was in the dream, it took him more than 100 years to find the opportunity for his own breakthrough and thus trigger the thunder tribulation. Moreover, he failed in the first few attempts to overcome the tribulation, and fell in the terrifying thunderbolt. It was an extremely long and repetitive dream. If it weren't for this great dream fruit, Li Zhirui really didn't know if he could succeed in overcoming the tribulation, but after countless falls, he now has a lot of experience. But even so, he still needs a lot of time to prepare and be careful to trigger the thunderbolt. Heavy snow covered the mountain several times, and another 10 years passed. "Shopkeeper, do you think that Senior can break through to the God transformation?" The clerk, who had to run every 6 months according to the order, in the past 20 years, no longer had much hope for Li Zhirui's breakthrough. Breaking through the God transformation is not that simple. You should be honest and don't neglect it. This is a great opportunity to climb up to God transformation ancestor. If this clerk was not his junior, he would not bother to say so much. Zhang Fengwu and others who were far away in Wangxin Island also began to worry. Mom, how is Dad now? It's so difficult for you to break through the nascent soul, let alone the spiritualization. Don't you know Heir's ability? Zhang Fengwu seemed to be comforting his two children, and also seemed to be comforting himself, and whispered, "Don't worry, everything will be fine, Mom. Dad is not on the quiet room, right?" Li Chengsheng suddenly said. It seems that Shenzhe has guessed it. Yes, Zhirui left the family 20 years ago. Li Chengshu, who was standing aside, heard this and exclaimed, "What?" But after thinking about it, he knew the reason and asked hurriedly, "Mom, where did Dad go?" "Nanya Chamber of Commerce, it's safer there." Li Chengshu couldn't help complaining, "You should have told us, otherwise we would not be at ease if Dad broke through alone outside. As Zhirui's children, you were not there during his retreat in the family. Wouldn't others be suspicious?" Zhang Fengwu shook his head. This was also the reason why they didn't tell their children at the beginning. Not only that, Li Zhirui didn't even take Daking, Zhaoqing and Xiaokang with him, just to avoid arousing suspicion from others. "Don't worry, Zhirui has deduced countless times in his dreams, he will be fine." The Zuanbing sect, who had been keeping a close eye on the Li family, was also a little impatient at this time. Then Li Zhirui would not have failed to break through and sat in the quiet room. "Impossible," another elder retorted. "If that's the case, there would be no news from the Li family." When the uncle master broke through to the spirit transformation, it took several decades, but now it's only been 20 years, then why not take advantage of his retreat and directly attack Wangxin Island to let him break through first? No. The Li family now has 6 Yuanyings and a large formation to protect the island. We must send at least 10 Yuanyings to break through the formation, in addition to a large number of Jinden and foundation building disciples. The demon clan may launch an invasion after knowing about it. Chapter 754 Breakthrough. This is not okay, that is not okay either. In the end, it can only be left unresolved. When Li Zhirui is overcoming the tribulation, there will be no more worries. After all, the demon clan will definitely not be happy to see a god born in the Li family. Some elders use this to scatter their thoughts, thinking that after the demon clan dispatched some big demons and weakened our strength, they could try to recapture Texas How. However, we should stop while we are ahead, recapture our part first, and then slowly go south to nibble away. And Li Zhirui, who was worried about so many people, finally took the last step in the 24th year of seclusion. A stream of light emitting a mysterious Taoist rhyme flew out of the nascent soul, went upstream from the meridians, and finally escaped into the soul of the sea of consciousness and merged with it. In an instant, a round of blue-white spiritual light bloomed behind the soul's head, like a bright moon, constantly turning. And Li Zhirui exuded a faint fragrance and white light all over his body. Looking at his exposed skin, he didn't know when it became as bright as jade, and the whole quiet room became spotless. The next moment, Li Zhirui's mind seemed to be attracted by some mysterious attraction. His consciousness was separated from his body and kept climbing upward. Just by lowering his head slightly, he could see the whole mountain. However, the mountain was completely different from what he usually saw. To be more precise, the whole world had changed. He seemed to be in a sea of light, in which there were tens of millions of different colors, exuding different breaths, but each color exuded a mysterious Tao rhyme. And they are the foundation of this world, the law. It is also the law that the cultivator needs to comprehend as he continues to climb and move towards the Tao. No one knows how many laws of heaven and earth there are, because every cultivator comprehends the law from the way of heaven, which will be different due to his understanding and cognition of heaven and earth and the Tao. In a sense, every cultivator is the creator of the law. At this moment, the most dazzling thing in front of Li Zhirui's eyes is the purification law that he chose in the dark when he broke through the nascent soul. Why is it difficult for nascent soul cultivators to break through the god of transformation, even if they completely transform their souls into yang? The reason lies here. They could not integrate their consciousness into the world, so naturally they could not find the law of the nascent soul from the countless laws, and it was even more impossible to imprint the origin on the law, deepen their understanding, and master the power of the law. But it is not that finding the corresponding law can break through the god transformation realm. Imprinting the origin is also a very dangerous thing. At the least, the breakthrough will fail and the foundation will be damaged. Although their lives are saved, unless there is a great opportunity to make up for the foundation, they will stop here for the rest of their lives. At the worst, they will be directly backfired by the law and die on the spot. But for some reason, Li Zhirui not only did not spend his mind to find the law, but the process of imprinting the origin was also extremely easy and simple, as if he was born to belong to the law of purification. You know, this step has stopped many nascent souls, but he has such an opportunity. This situation really surprised him, like a young swallow returning to the nest, and instantly turned into aura and plunged into the law. The next moment, in front of Li Zhirui's eyes, there was only a vast and boundless blue-white light with a refreshing fragrance in the originally colorful sea of light. But even though Li Zhirui has a great advantage compared to other cultivators, the process of branding is still very thrilling. He seems to be on a sea with strong winds and huge waves, but he is just a small boat, and the high waves may swallow him at any time. All Li Zhirui can do is to continue to spread his own aura, infect the entire law, and finally leave his own mark. As the mark strengthened, he also had a deeper understanding of the purification law, and gradually he actually comprehended several magical powers on his own. The combat effectiveness of the incarnation cultivator is closely related to the mastery of the law. And at the moment of breakthrough, it is the only time to directly contact the law. In the future, there will be many obstacles in the practice, which is quite hazy. So this time is the perfect time to master the law. However, in this sea of laws, the longer you stay, the more difficult it is to get out. If you can't get out, there is only one result: Taoism. Become a part of the law from now on. Therefore, they must have a clear understanding of themselves, a calm mind, and must not be obsessed. Li Zhirui did not test his own limits. When he felt that he only had 20% of his strength left, he chose to leave the sea of laws. For safety reasons, he had to leave some room. Sure enough, in the process of leaving the sea of laws, the storm became more fierce, and the boat he was riding on was likely to capsize and sink at any time. If Li Zhirui had not been careful enough and deliberately retained a little more strength, he might have been swallowed by the law. Buzz, when his consciousness returned to his body, a gust of wind blew between heaven and earth, and at the same time, a mysterious, profound, and vast breath spread. The God-transforming thunder turbulation was forming at a very fast speed. The rolling calamity clouds gathered, and the wind was blowing violently, with an indescribable oppressive breath, and the terrifying meaning of destruction could also be felt. Someone is going through the tribulation. This thunder turbulation hasn't formed yet, but the aura is so terrifying. Could it be the thunder turbulation of the transformation of the spirit? It should be. If it was the thunder turbulation of the nascent soul, there would be no such a big commotion. The mountain where the rental cave is located is a bit remote, but it is in the fairy city after all, so there is no shortage of cultivators. So many cultivators saw it at the first time. And the clerk and the shopkeeper naturally knew it. Shopkeeper, that senior really attracted the thunder tribulation, the clerk said excitedly. Doesn't it mean that we are now related to a God-transforming ancestor? That's right, although there are countless nascent soul cultivators who have fallen in the thunder tribulation, the shopkeeper naturally hopes that Li Zhirui can successfully break through, otherwise what is the use of the friendship he has received? Quick, quick, quick! Notify the nascent soul Taoists in the fairy city, let them all come to protect the law. Don't let the villain ruin this tribulation. In fact, there is no need for the shopkeeper to urge. The nascent soul cultivators who have not yet closed their doors took the initiative to run over as soon as they sensed the thunder tribulation. The reason was very simple. They wanted to observe it up close. Maybe they could gain some insights from the thunder tribulation and help their own practice. And with this guardian friendship, they also had a reason to talk to this God-transforming cultivator. So before the guy's message was sent out, a nascent soul cultivator came. Fellow Taoist Zhang, I wonder who is in seclusion here to break through to the God-transforming stage? Shopkeeper Zhang shook his head and said, I don't know the identity of this fellow Taoist. I only know that he came from the outside world. Because of a sudden burst of inspiration, he couldn't make it back to the sect in time, so he came to the cave rented in the Immortal City. Don't chat now, let's protect the Dharma first. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 755 Transformation into God. Several Yuanings stood on the air, each standing on one side, looking solemnly alert to the surroundings, and at the same time drove the nearby monks away for several miles. The mighty calamity cloud had accumulated power for a quarter of an hour, and it was so heavy that it seemed that it could fall from the sky at any time. The monks watching from a distance were terrified, and some of them were even trembling and unable to stand upright, which was very unbearable. Rumble, accompanied by a thunderous sound that broke the sky, a calamity thunder as thick as an arm struck down from the rolling clouds at a high speed. Li Zhirui suddenly opened his eyes, slightly raised his head and looked at the calamity thunder that struck down. He looked very calm, without any hesitation, and as his hands flew, thousands of vines soared into the sky. These vines were all glowing with the color of silver steel, intertwined and entangled with each other, forming a thick giant bell that protected him as a whole. The precious pill that was previously held in his mouth also began to be slowly refined, turning into pure mana that merged into the danshan. Mana continuously poured into the spiritual vines. Under the scouring of the terrifying thunder, the vines did not wither and decay, but looked more and more dazzling. Li Zhirui was very satisfied with this. These vines were variants that a son accidentally cultivated. Not only were they not afraid of the power of thunder and lightning, but they could absorb it and use it as their own nutrients. When he knew about this kind of spiritual vine, he immediately asked Hassan to cultivate it in space. Now he has accumulated tens of thousands of spiritual seeds. But it is not without shortcomings, such as the need to consume a lot of mana. For the thousands of spiritual seeds he just gave birth to, the mana has been consumed. You know, Li Zhirui's mana has been polished and refined many times, and it is extremely pure, but one birth almost exhausted all his mana. Fortunately, as an alchemist, he does not lack the precious pills to restore his mana, so when he saw that he was not in danger for the time being, he devoted himself to refining the precious pills and recovering his mana as soon as possible. What kind of spiritual vine is this? Not only can it easily resist the thunderbolt, but it can also absorb it and use it for its own benefit. The closest nascent soul cultivators looked at each other in surprise when they saw him passing the tribulation so easily. Then they had an idea in their minds. If they could plant a spirit, would it be as easy as this when they pass the tribulation in the future? You know, for most cultivators, passing the tribulation, it's like dancing on the edge of a cliff. If you are not careful, you will be crushed to pieces. How can it be as easy as Li Zhirui? With the protection of the vine, you can hide in it safely and pass through the thunderbolts. Even if they have no chance to become gods in this life, whether they hand it over to the Chamber of Commerce or leave it to future generations, it is a big contribution. But soon, they saw another shortcoming of the spiritual vine, which is that it can't withstand two strong thunderbolts. They are just fourth-level spiritual vines, and even if they are variants, they can't change their natural wood element and have limited carrying capacity. The outermost layer of those spiritual vines that were originally shining soon withered. Fortunately, after breaking through a few layers, the first thunderbolt was also exhausted. At this time, Li Zhirui also knew the limit of the spiritual vine's endurance. While there were still a large number of spiritual vines, he still ignored the second and third thunder tribulation. It was not until all the vines were broken that he weakened the thunder tribulation like ordinary cultivators, and finally blocked it with magic weapons. Could it be that this person does not have many spiritual seeds in his hand? Those Yuaning who had other thoughts were a little disappointed. Although each spiritual vine can absorb a limited amount of thunder, tens of thousands of spiritual seeds can be born, and the entire thunder tribulation can be safely passed. I don't think so. There may be shortcomings that we don't know about, but this person has such a treasure. It seems that the thunder tribulation should not be too threatening to him. Until the sixth thunder tribulation, Li Zhirui once again gave birth to thousands of vines, and several precious pills in his mouth were bitten to pieces. The majestic mana was like a rushing river, rushing through the meridians and flowing into the danshan, but before it could calm down a little, it was exerted from the other side. Doing so can fully stimulate the birth of the spirit seed in the first place, forming a seamless defense, but it will cause great damage to one's own meridians. Time passed by minute, and the originally heavy calamity cloud, with the 8 calamity thunders falling, looked much thinner. 9 calamity thunders, now only the last one is left. However, it seems that the heavenly Dao thinks that Li Zhirui's calamity is too easy, and a sudden change occurs. The calamity cloud once again absorbs the nearby spiritual energy, and the breath of destruction becomes more intense. What is going on? Everyone was horrified. They had never heard of any cultivator who would absorb spiritual energy and strengthen himself when the calamity cloud was absorbing it again during the calamity. Shopkeeper Zhang, who originally thought that Li Zhirui would succeed in this calamity, began to beat the gong and drum in his heart, and was no longer so confident. As the protagonist of this calamity, Li Zhirui's expression also became very gloomy. No one could have thought that such a thing would happen to him. Regardless of the broken meridians in his body, he once again forcibly refined several precious pearls and sprinkled thousands of spiritual seeds. The overlapping vines were like a solid fortress, protecting Li Zhirui. Puff. When the last thunderbolt hit him, he also spit out a mouthful of blood because of the injuries in his body, and his breath suddenly became weak. But he was still not at ease, so he summoned his life treasure Qianling as his last means of defense. The thunderbolt was as thick as a calf and very fast. In the blink of an eye, it struck the vines from the sky above, and the strong light that burst out turned the dark world back to daylight. Can he survive this disaster? All the monks who were watching were thinking silently in their hearts. I don't know how long it took. The light of the thunderbolt finally dimmed, and on the top of the mountain, there was only a withered bamboo forest among countless withered and charred vines. Under it, Li Zhirui was sitting cross-legged with a pale face. Success, even though they had no relatives or friends with him. They cheered from the bottom of their hearts when they saw him survive such a terrifying thunder tribulation. But at this time, Li Zhirui knew nothing about the outside world, because the moment the thunder dissipated, the inner demon came quietly, not giving him a chance to breathe. Fortunately, Li Zhirui comprehended the law of purification when he was comprehending the world, and he was most restrained against these evil things. What's more, his Tao heart was firm, and there was a huge divine turtle sitting in his sea of consciousness. The inner demon had no way to stir up trouble in his sea of consciousness. Instead, it was timid and unable to use too many means. Therefore, for many cultivators, the inner demon was extremely dangerous, but Li Zhirui easily eliminated it and survived this tribulation. So far, the tribulation of the transformation of the spirit has been completely overcome. Buzz, a fragrance suddenly emanated from the heaven and earth, the law of purification flashed by, and the tribulation cloud turned into pure and huge mana, which was invested in Li Zhirui's danshan. The next moment, the pressure of the transformation of the spirit burst out in all directions. Chapter 756, Leaving the Customs. Success. Meet the transformation ancestor. Shopkeeper Zhang was overjoyed and bowed immediately. Upon hearing this, the other cultivators also hurriedly bowed and shouted in unison, "Meet the transformation ancestor." The momentum was so great that it spread throughout the entire immortal city. "No need to be so polite," Li Zhirui said in a gentle voice. "I have just broken through, and I still need to go into seclusion to consolidate it. I have remembered the friendship of the Dharma protectors and will definitely repay them in the future." Although he had successfully broken through, the injuries in his body had not healed, and his realm was unstable, so he had no time to waste time with them. "We are bothering the seniors, no problem, everyone go yourselves." Li Zhirui waved his hand and disappeared. The news that a transformation ancestor was born in Nanya Immortal City naturally must have been known to the Chamber of Commerce headquarters, but unfortunately when the transformation ancestor they sent arrived, Li Zhirui was already in the quiet room and was unable to see him. When he was alone, Li Zhirui couldn't help laughing out loud. After going through untold hardships and practicing for hundreds of years, he finally reached the highest level of cultivation in this world. And he was only one step away from transcending the tribulation and ascending to heaven. Fortunately, Li Zhirui quickly restrained his joy. After all, he was still injured and had to be treated as soon as possible. What's more, he had to consolidate his realm and integrate the experience of this breakthrough and transcending the tribulation. Especially the latter. Not only can Li Zhirui have a deeper and deeper understanding of the transformation realm, which is conducive to future practice, but also provide valuable experience for the family's younger generations on the path of transformation. Although now, apart from him, the highest cultivation in the family is Yang Fengwu in the middle stage of the nascent soul, but who says she has no possibility of breaking through the transformation? Li Zhirui never believed that in the remaining more than 1,000 years of his life, he would not see the birth of the second transformation of the family. After breaking through the transformation of the spirit, his lifespan once again ushered in a surge, directly doubling, with a lifespan of 2,000 years. But now Li Zhirui is only more than 500 years old. Compared with most transformation cultivators, he is a little too young. However, this has many benefits for his ascension. After all, The longer the lifespan, the more time he will have to practice, and the greater the chance of ascension. Take out various healing pills, gently refine them, and treat his own injuries, while Li Zhirui successfully broke through the transformation of the spirit. Daking, Zhaoqing and Xiaokeng, who were far away in Banyan Island, received the huge mana at the same time. Daking couldn't suppress his inner joy. He didn't retreat to refine the mana, but flew to the cave on the top of the mountain at the fastest speed, but found that Zhaoqing and Xiaokeng came faster than him, and they all had ecstasy on their faces. Not long after, Li Chengsheng and Li Changshu, who received the news, also hurried over. The latter couldn't wait to ask, "Uncles, is there any news about my father? Li Zhirui has been away from the family for more than 20 years. But no news has been sent back. Although nothing can be seen on the surface, they are extremely anxious and can't sleep or eat." Ninth brother has successfully broken through the transformation of the spirit at this time. After everyone arrived, Zhaoqing couldn't hold back any longer and shouted loudly. Zhang Fengwu, who had guessed something in his mind when he saw the three people rushing over with flushed faces, got the exact answer and shed 2 lines of tears excitedly, choking and saying, "Great." The brother and sister were also very excited. They had great confidence in Li Zhirui, but they didn't know when he would break through. It was naturally great to hear good news now. Duqing, who had calmed down a little, said, "Don't publicize this matter for the time being, so as to prevent the Xuanbing sect from jumping off the wall. After all, the 9th brother has just broken through, and it will definitely take some time to consolidate his cultivation. In addition, if he is on the road, it may take 3 to 5 years before he can return to Banyan Island. After all, under their deliberate efforts over the years, they have almost found all the spies and thieves in the family, but they just didn't take action to clean them up." "You are right." Zhang Fengwu nodded repeatedly and said, "Zhirui has broken through to the spirit transformation stage. You must have endured a lot of mana. Now go back and refine it quickly. Don't suppress it anymore. Next, we just need to wait quietly for Zhirui to return. There is no need to make trouble or do other things." In fact, the 3 people from Daking rushed here to make a lot of noise. Many people in the tribe saw it and couldn't help but have some guesses in their hearts. Could it be that Ruzu is going to break through? Not only Li Wenli, many people in the tribe thought so. Unfortunately, they waited for more than half a month, but there was no movement. Naturally, they were extremely disappointed. After receiving the news, the Xuanbing sect and the Great Snow Mountain Demon Clan became extremely tense and ready to go at any time. Finally, they disbanded their army. Is the Li family trying to learn the trick of playing with the princes with beacon fires? Some elders of the Xuanbing sect speculated. The head of the sect was calm enough, saying, "No matter what means they use, we will know it at the first time and react quickly. What's more, there are demons watching covetously. It is absolutely impossible for the Li family to have a god-transforming ancestor." Headquarters of Nanya Chamber of Commerce. That ancestor has been in seclusion for more than 2 years. Right, 2 years, 5 months and 17 days, a friend beside him answered casually. Not only him, many cultivators always remember the years when Li Zhirui was in seclusion. "I don't know if the promise he made before his seclusion will be fulfilled." The speaker was just a giant and cultivator, and his eyes were full of longing, saying, "Even if he leaks a little bit of things, it will be enough for me." "That ancestor has come out of seclusion?" someone suddenly shouted, which immediately attracted the attention of countless cultivators. "Is it true?" Just when everyone was still hesitating, several spiritual lights quickly passed over the sky of the market. "Hurry! Let's hurry over there. Get a good spot." Those who can fly in the immortal city must be Yuanying cultivators. Since they are all rushing on the road, the news must be true. Unfortunately, the 2 were far away. Although they were fast enough, they still couldn't get to the front. At this time, Li Zhirui was communicating with the Hushan from the Nanya Chamber of Commerce. "If you are not in a hurry to return to the sect, why don't you stay for a few more days, discuss Taoism with each other, learn from each other's strengths and weaknesses, and make progress together?" Li Zhirui shook his head and said, "Thank you for your kindness, but I have been traveling for 100 years and I still want to get back as soon as possible." "Well, since you are eager to go home, I won't try to persuade you to stay." Seeing his firm expression, the man knew that he would not change his mind, so he didn't waste any more words. Then, seeing the cultivators rushing over from all directions, he couldn't help but laugh and said, "Dao Arao, those who are protecting you are just those few Yuanying. Why spend so much money? It's just a magical power. It won't cause any trouble. Chapter 757 emerges. Oh? Really? Then I'd like to see your magical power. The transformation god raised his eyebrows and smiled softly. Li Zhirui didn't say anything else. He turned around and looked at the cultivators who were swarming in. He felt that quite a few people had come, so he took a few steps forward and came to the top of the crowd. He just waved his hand lightly, and the surrounding spiritual energy gathered in front of him, forming pure white lotuses. In the blink of an eye, the white lotus spread for several miles, which made everyone stunned. A large part of the cultivators among them had never seen the methods of the transformation god cultivators. Li Zhirui could condense so many white lotuses with just a wave of his hand, which was really surprising. Even the transformation god's eyes flashed with a trace of surprise. He originally thought that Li Zhirui had just consolidated his realm and had not adapted well, but now it seems that he has no problem in this regard at all. More importantly, his control over mana is also far beyond that of ordinary cultivators who have just entered the transformation god. This situation can only mean that Li Zhirui is either a top genius who has learned it by himself, or he comes from a top force and has been taught by a teacher long ago. But no matter which one it is worth it for the Nanya Chamber of Commerce to establish a good relationship with it. Speaking of which, the white lotuses suspended in the air bloomed one after another, and a refreshing fragrance spread with the wind, making people unconsciously enjoy it and close their eyes comfortably. Then the white lotus fell, and petals fell from the sky, turning into a stream of spiritual light, sinking into the bodies of the monks. Naturally, everyone felt it. Some were very alert and hurriedly expelled it from the body, while others did not care and let the spiritual light wander in the body. Not long after, those monks who indulged in spiritual light had a trace of black, smelly dirt on their bodies. Thousands of people gathered together, and you can imagine how terrible this smell is. Fortunately, Li Zhirui had made preparations early in the morning and immediately called the breeze to take away the dirt on their bodies and blow away the stench. Thank you, Senior, those cultivators bowed with joy. They could clearly feel the relief of their bodies, as if they had removed several kilograms of heavy burdens. Thank you, all the guardians. Then he looked at the Yuanying of shopkeeper Zhang and said in a gentle voice, you have worked hard and made great contributions. I still have a few bottles of precious pills left over from previous cultivation, as well as some spiritual seeds of the thunder vine for the tribulation. I hope you don't dislike them. Thank you, Senior, for your reward. But what they didn't know was that these spiritual vines had lost their ability to reproduce and could no longer produce spiritual seeds. Regardless of the disadvantages of the thunder vine, it is indeed very useful in the tribulation. If used properly, it may change the result of the tribulation. How could Li Zhirui let such a treasure go and let it spread? Wouldn't it be better to hold it in his own hands and make a profit? If he hadn't broken through to the god transformation, he wouldn't have enough strength, let alone enough confidence to take out this treasure, but now he is a god transformation. And it wouldn't be too dangerous to take out the thunder vine. After all, the disadvantages of the thunder vine are also very obvious. It cannot withstand more explosive thunder. However, the 6 divine transformation thunders require tens of thousands of spirit seeds. If it is a refining thunder tribulation, I am afraid that just one thunder will require tens of thousands of spirit seeds. And the mana required for birth is very huge. With this mana to give birth to the thunder vine, it is better to use other means to resist the thunder. Therefore, it will not arouse the covetousness of the divine transformation cultivators. The rest can be dealt with by Li Zhirui's strength. Dao is really a good method. When I first broke through the divine transformation, I had no way to control the law so skillfully, the divine transformation praised sincerely. At the same time, he was also guessing what kind of law Li Zhirui was controlling. It looked like a law that was more auxiliary, such as healing and dispelling. Dao being modest, Li Zhirui did not continue the topic, but said, now that the matter here is over, I should also return to the sect. When Dao is free in the future, you can come to the headquarters of Nanya Chamber of Commerce. We can discuss the Dao with each other. I will definitely not let Dao down. As he said this, he took out a J token. Okay, Li Zhirui naturally agreed. As for whether to go in the future, that would be discussed later. Then he turned around and left. After breaking through the transformation of the spirit, the escape technique naturally became faster, and returned to its original state, as if it had merged into the world, with almost no movement. There was no conversation along the way, and there were no twists and turns. After all, Those who could find Li Zhirui would not attack a transformation of the spirit for no reason, and those who could not find him would not even have a target. So after running around for more than a year, he returned to Banyan Island very smoothly. Li Zhirui did not appear in front of everyone with a big fanfare. He still walked along the secret passage under the sea and came to his own cave quietly. Zhirui, when he pushed open the gate, Zhang Fengwu immediately stood up and shouted with surprise, "You are finally back." "Yes, I have been away from home for more than 20 years and I am finally back." Li Zhirui showed a bright smile on his face and said, "Fortunately, I did not disappoint everyone." Not long after, Li Chengshen, Li Chengshu, Daking, Zhaoking, and Xiaokang also appeared in the cave. "Dad, ninth brother," everyone was full of joy. "Dad, is it difficult to break through the spirit transformation? How strong are you now?" Li Zhirui nodded and replied, "It is difficult. Even though I have deduced countless times in dreams, it has taken me more than 20 years in reality to achieve the unity of heaven and earth and the imprint of laws. Moreover, when I was crossing the tribulation and breaking through, I almost failed. As for strength," he pondered for a while and said, "The whole family rushed up, but they are not my opponent. After breaking through the spirit transformation, the enemy is no longer a simple magical power or spell, but a deeper use of the power of laws. In addition, the number of nascent souls in the Li family is relatively small, so he said that if it were the Xuanbing sect, he would not be able to challenge the entire sect alone. So powerful is the gap, so big." Li Zhirui explained to everyone, and said that he had sorted out his experience well, and when he broke through, it would be easier than if he figured it out by himself. After everyone exchanged pleasantries, they finally talked about business. "Brother Jiu, now that you are back, you can finally clean up those bastards who are eating at home." Zhaoking's face sank and he said murderously. Li Zhirui raised his eyebrows and said, "What's wrong? Since you went into seclusion, some people have emerged and sold out the interests of the family. If it weren't for us sitting in charge and Li Wenli's good ability, I'm afraid the family would have been in chaos long ago." Daking briefly explained some of the situations. "Hell, I thought there wouldn't be so many termites in the family, but I didn't expect that they were hidden too well before. As soon as I left, they all emerged." Chapter 758, March Forward. "We must not let these termites go," Xiaoqing shouted angrily. "We can use this opportunity to warn other tribesmen and prevent the emergence of traitors again." He has always had a bad temper. He was able to tolerate it for so many years for the sake of the overall situation. But now that Li Zhirui has successfully broken through the spirit transformation and returned to Banyan Island, he has no reason to continue to swallow his anger. But killing people directly will definitely cause panic among the tribesmen. Daking immediately expressed his opinion. He still hopes to solve the matter with a gentler means. Seeing this, the two began to confront each other and refused to give in. During this period, Li Zhirui did not stop the two of them. Instead, he frowned and thought. After a long while, he asked, "Fengwu, are the two spirit beasts you contracted likely to break through to the 4th level in the near future?" The dragon carp has been in seclusion for quite some time. It should be able to break through in a few years. Zhang Fengwu understood what he meant after he said that. "Are you planning to use the dragon carp thunder tribulation as bait to lure the snake out of its hole? But why bother? Over the years, we have collected a lot of evidence, and we can take action at any time to catch those traitors." Several people present looked at him with puzzled eyes. A strange smile appeared on Li Zhirui's lips, and he said, "In order to ensure that the outside forces can arrive in time, they will definitely spread the news as soon as the thunder tribulation begins to take shape, and what we have to do is to wait for them to spread the news and control them as soon as possible. And then get rid of that group of monks who don't know how to live or die." He is not a good man. Over the past few hundred years, no less than 1,000 monks have died at the hands of Li Zhirui. "Brother Jiu, are you planning to take this opportunity to attack other forces?" Daking reacted immediately and couldn't help but frown and said, "Are you too anxious? It's too much pressure on the family to fend several unioning forces at once. Just give a warning and collect some interest." Li Zhirui had no intention of taking action. Although he had achieved the state of transformation, his combat power was always limited. If he really wanted to attack the nearby forces, the family would definitely suffer a lot of losses. It would also delay his own cultivation time, which was not worth it. The purpose of Li Zhirui's doing this was mainly to test who these unioning forces were, and to force them to take out precious spiritual objects to beg for his forgiveness. "Let's do this for now. We still need to discuss how to do it specifically. After everyone discussed it, it was already several hours later, so Li Zhirui did not try to keep them and said, "I've been a little tired from running all the way, so everyone can go back." After Li Zhirui returned to the family, he still stayed indoors, but he went out of the courtyard gate. While quietly waiting for time, he studied the 5th level treasure pill that he had temporarily given up before. The purpose of his deduction of the 5th level treasure pill was very simple, that is, he wanted to speed up his own cultivation. In the cultivation of the spirit, it is different from before. Mana is still the focus, but if you want to break through, you must collect some kind of yuan qi from the world, and then merge it with the soul, and be promoted to Yangshan, and from then on, you will have both form and spirit. Before, it was already extremely dangerous to transform the soul into Yang, not to mention integrating external objects into it. So in order to reduce the difficulty, most cultivators will choose the yuan qi corresponding to the law they control. And doing so can also promote the mastery and understanding of the law and enhance their own combat effectiveness. Before breaking through the spirit transformation, Li Zhirui knew nothing about the spirit transformation and had no idea where to start to deduce the pill formula. But now that he has become one of them, he has some superficial ideas. But it is not perfect, not to mention the rationality of the pill formula. However, Li Zhirui is not in a hurry. He still has a lot of life and enough energy to spend on it. His return also made Zhang Fengwu and others calm down completely, and they could only start the show. Soon, nearly 3 years passed. On this day, a wave suddenly came from the top of the mountain, and the robbery clouds began to take shape. And when the robbery clouds appeared for only a moment, those traitors couldn't wait to send the message to the outside world. But they never thought that they would be caught the next moment after the message was sent out. "Who are you? How dare you attack me?" The foreign affairs elder was terrified and wanted to attract the attention of other tribesmen by shouting. Li Zhirui and his men were too few in number to capture so many traitors at the same time, so they called Li Wenli over and asked him to arrange for the trustworthy clansmen to control them all at the command. When Li Wenli saw Li Zhirui suddenly appear that day, he was startled. Because he restrained his own breath, Li Wenli mistakenly thought that Li Zhirui had failed to break through. He comforted him with a frustrated face. "Ruizu, with your ability, you can definitely break through to the god transformation. You can't be discouraged because of a temporary failure." This made Li Zhirui laugh and cry, and he let go of his breath and explained, "I have already achieved the god transformation." Li Wenli was dumbfounded for a long time and didn't finish his words. Fortunately, he was not stupid, and soon figured out that Li Zhirui had broken through in the outside world. This surprise would definitely catch the Zhuanbing sect and other ill-intentioned forces off guard. "There is something for you to deal with." After getting back to the point, the expressions of the two became serious. Li Zhirui didn't even try to persuade Li Wenli, he nodded and agreed. As the head of the clan, he could not tolerate the existence of traitors and spies. After taking action, he realized how the clan had been rotting under his nose over the years. Especially the foreign affairs elder. The clan treated the elders well, with monthly wages and various benefits far exceeding those of the elders of ordinary Yuanying forces. But even so, there were elders who colluded with the enemy. If it weren't for the fact that he was still a little useful, Li Wenli would have wanted to kill him immediately. The news from Banyan Island quickly spread in all directions. Obviously, the forces that did not want the Li family to give birth to God were not only the Zhuanbing sect and the demon clan, but also other forces. The news was reported layer by layer and soon reached each mountain gate. "The day has finally arrived. We must not let Li Zhirui break through to the god transformation realm, otherwise this corner of the Far East will completely become the Li family's territory. My Zhuanbing sect must submit to him. Humans and demons cannot coexist. Once a god transformation cultivator appears in the Li family, they will never allow a powerful demon clan to be nearby. We either die or escape." Although some small forces were still hesitant when they really had to face this matter, the Zhuanbing sect and the demon clan did not hesitate to gather their armies and march towards Banyan Island. Chapter 759 Fear. The demon tribe went south directly from Taixishao, crossed Yuanmingzhou, flew over more than 200 miles of sea, and appeared in the west of Banyan Island. The Zhuanbing sect went east into the Infinite Sea, and then went south, with troops arrayed in the north. As for those weaker forces, they also sent people over, but after discovering the demon tribe and Zhuanbing sect, they retreated a little further away. They felt that with these two armies, The Li family had no ability to resist at all, and would be destroyed in a short time, so they naturally had no need to participate in this war. The reason why they did not leave was to see if they could get something out of the chaotic situation. When the demon tribe entered the territory of Wangxian's Hao, the tribesmen on the island received the news, and they were all as if they were facing a great enemy, especially the elders who knew the Li family's plan. Their faces were terrible. What's going on? Why did the various forces know the situation inside the family so quickly? You must know that according to the original plan, as long as Li Zhirui began to break through, they would immediately block the east and west islands of Banyan Island to prevent those spies who collected intelligence from passing on the news. But just as they sealed off the two islands and suppressed the monks in the market, the family welcomed a large-scale, powerful monk and monster. Everyone only wants to solve the external enemies, but never thought that there would be enemies inside the family, Li Wenli said with a cold look. All along, the Li family has not had any traitors who betray the interests of the family. In addition, the semi-closed environment makes the family members very confident. But in fact, as the Li family continues to grow, it has attracted more and more attention and bribery, coercion and other methods, and the family members are played in turn. However, the family is extremely slow in this regard, and there are no measures. They think that they have blood ties and are not thin to all the family members, so there will be no traitors. The main reason is that the foundation of the Li family is too shallow. Without the precipitation of time, many aspects are very immature. It is entirely because of Li Zhirui's rapid growth that they are forced to grow up. Fortunately, no major disaster has occurred. Everyone was silent, but now was not the time to delve into the matter. An elder said anxiously, "What should we do now? Ruizu is breaking through. With the current strength of the family, it is impossible to resist the attack of the two major forces of the demon clan and the Xuanbing sect. The most important thing is that Li Zhirui is about to cross the calamity, and the great formation covering Banyan Island must be closed. But in this way, without the formation to rely on, with the strength of the Li family, even if they fight to the end and exhaust the lives of all the clan members, they can't stop them. The Xuanbing sect wants to join forces with the demon clan to attack the family. They are worthy of death. They are traitors to the human race," an elder suddenly said righteously. Another elder frowned and said dissatisfiedly, "What's the point of you saying this now? It's impossible for the family to ask Wangxiang sect and other big forces to do justice." There were also elders who understood the meaning of his words, but the light in their eyes flashed away. And they shook their heads and sighed. Although we can use words and righteousness to force Xuanbing sect to leave, the remaining monsters are still not something the family can resist. The internal affairs elder wanted to say something, and suddenly saw Li Wenli sitting at the top with a calm look. There was no fear and uneasiness on his face that the family was about to face a catastrophe. He subconsciously asked, "Does the clan leader have a solution?" "Yes." Li Wenli stood up, with uncontrollable joy on his face, and said loudly, "In this battle, there will be no casualties in my Li family, because Ruzu is now a god. Whether it is the monsters or the cultivators, they are nothing but collapsing earth and clay dogs, vulnerable to a single blow, and not worth mentioning. From now on, the family will be the only ruler of the Far East." At the end, he had already yelled at the top of his lungs, but even so, he could not completely vent his excitement. The elders looked at Li Wenli with incredible eyes, and subconsciously felt that it was impossible. Without overcoming the tribulation, how could there be a breakthrough? But the next moment, Li Zhirui appeared in front of everyone, revealing a terrifying aura of destruction, telling everyone that what Li Wenli said was true. The heart that had been hanging in the air suddenly fell back to its original place. "Greetings to Ruzu." Everyone bowed in greeting. Li Zhirui helped everyone up and said in a gentle voice, "Thank you for your hard work over the years, but now I have one more thing to trouble you. Ruzu's order, come out with me and discuss with all parties how to compensate the family." Li Zhirui could not kill the thousands of cultivators and monsters, but they offended the family, but let them leave directly, which did not serve the purpose of establishing authority at all. So he captured a few fourth-order monsters and made them the family's mountain guardian beasts, or directly reduced them to breeding beasts, just to kill the chicken to scare the monkeys. As for other forces, since they are here, if they don't want to leave their lives, they have to leave something else, right? Just treat it as a life-saving money. Yes, Li Wenli led a group of elders to respond. "Let's go." Li Zhirui stretched out his hand and waved at everyone. The clouds gathered and formed an auspicious cloud to drive everyone into the sky, and he stood at the front. At this time, The various forces guarding outside Banyan Island also noticed something wrong. The scale of the calamity cloud in the sky and the aura it exuded were not the thunder calamity of the transformation of the gods, but the thunder calamity of the Yuanying. Do you still want to take action? A fourth order monster asked. Since we are here, we can't return empty-handed and directly destroy the Li family. I haven't enjoyed the fresh flesh and blood of cultivators for a long time, the leading monster grinned murderously. Brother, I always feel something is wrong. An elder of Xuanbing's sect felt a little weird in his heart, always feeling a little uneasy, as if a disaster was about to happen, and persuaded, why don't we retreat first? Anyway, the demon clan is about to take action, and the Li family can't resist it at all. Just when the leader of the Yuanying was hesitant, Li Zhirui appeared in front of all the demon clans and cultivators with a group of elders. Avoiding the pressure from the clansmen behind him, the aura of the transformation of the spirit burst out. The terrifying and heavy pressure made it difficult for everyone to breathe, and all the creatures present were terrified. The situation of the Yuanying was better. Although he was sweating profusely, he could at least stand. But the giant only lasted for a few breaths before kneeling down. As for the foundation building and key training, it was even more unbearable and he had fainted. Transformation of the spirit, how is this possible? Both exclamations were filled with deep fear and disbelief. But no matter what they thought, Li Zhirui was already a genuine transformation of the spirit. Unlike these creatures, the people on Banyan Island were overjoyed and burst into thunderous cheers. Chapter 760 Gift. Under the pressure of the god of incarnation, all the monsters and cultivators seemed to have lost all their spirit, only their bodies, and no souls. Not to mention mustering up the courage to resist, even their bodies were difficult to control. This is the power of the law. The law is the foundation of the world and a part of the way of heaven. After breaking through the god of incarnation and mastering the law, it is equivalent to mastering the way of heaven, the supreme way of heaven. You have offended the power of the god of incarnation, so stay on the island and atone for the rest of your life. Li Zhirui glanced at the group of monsters and capped all the monsters with rich dragon blood. As for whether they were used as breeding beasts or as mountain guardian beasts with a little dignity, it depends on how high their consciousness is. As for the other monsters, I don't want to kill them. Get out. With a flick of his hand, a gust of wind whistled away, blowing thousands of monsters away for several miles. After leaving the range of the pressure, they dared not have the slightest nostalgia and fled to take Suzhou at the fastest speed in their lives. Don't worry, for the sake of our fellow race, we won't treat you like this, but the majesty of the god of transformation cannot be offended, so if you want to live, take out the spiritual objects to buy your life. After Li Zhirui finished speaking, the cultivators were finally able to control their bodies. In front of absolute power, even if they were unwilling, they had to obey, unless they wanted to die here. Li Zhirui naturally couldn't go up and trade with them, so he pushed Li Wenli and others out and let them solve it. As for the spiritual objects to buy their lives, it was not that they took out whatever they took out, but all the spiritual objects in the storage magic weapon were taken out and Li Wenli and others chose. During this period, there were cultivators who wanted to resist, but before they could do anything, Li Zhirui destroyed their danshan. It was not a big deal that they could not practice in the future, because they had no future at all. Danshan was shattered, realm fell, and most importantly, they had already exceeded the limit of mortals, and died in just half a quarter of an hour. Under the threat of death, no cultivator dared to resist, and honestly poured out the spiritual objects, allowing Li Wenli and others to choose. After half an hour of busy work, it was finally done. Li Zhirui immediately withdrew his pressure and let everyone leave. By the way, Li Zhirui seemed to have suddenly thought of something and said, the transformation ceremony will not be held, but remember to send the gifts. Not holding a ceremony. First, he didn't like it and felt it was troublesome, and second, when holding a ceremony, he had to invite nearby major forces to participate, which was a considerable expense. Most importantly, he didn't want to preach to outsiders. Please rest assured, Senior, how dare everyone say no, and quickly responded before continuing on the road back to the sect. Please put these spiritual objects in different categories, especially those spiritual seeds, and be sure to keep them well. I'll go first. After entering the formation, Li Zhirui flashed away. As for the nascent soul thunder tribulation that caused many living beings to surround and spread false news to those forces, it has also begun. Li Zhirui stood not far away and saw Long Li's relaxed expression, knowing that he would definitely break through. After another half a while, Long Li's thunder tribulation quickly dissipated, as if it had never happened, and he broke through the 4th level very smoothly. Seeing Zhang Fengwu close his eyes to feel the magic power coming from Long Li after the breakthrough, Li Zhirui couldn't help but think of the 3 people in Dekking and Asan in the space. The first 3 were fine, after all, they were all 4th level spirit beasts. Although the magic power obtained after breaking through the spirit transformation was huge, they could digest it slowly. But Asan was different. When Li Zhirui broke through, he was just a 2nd level little demon spirit. To him, those magic powers were like huge waves, and he was swallowed up without any ability to fight back. Fortunately, he did not fall, but just fell into deep sleep, otherwise Li Zhirui would have to change his skills. Not only were the other skills incomplete, but the grade was far inferior to the Wanling Sutra. But it is not possible not to change it. The death of the contracted spirit beast is equivalent to its own incompleteness. First, it has to endure the pain of backlash, and it will not be able to make further progress in the future. Fortunately, Asan's condition is relatively stable, just unconscious. Speaking of which, Li Zhirui did not disturb Zhang Fengwu from refining his magic power, but quietly returned to the quiet room and continued to deduce the 5th level treasure pill. In just one day, the outside world knew that Li Zhirui had broken through the spirit transformation and defeated a large number of cultivators and monsters with his own strength, and also left behind a lot of monsters. As for the embarrassing things such as handing over the life-saving spirit, they naturally would not spread it. After most of the casual cultivators knew about this, they could only exclaim and sigh in time, and did not take it to heart at all. After all, they could not provoke the Li family. In fact, the Xuanbing sect did not release the news for these casual cultivators at all. The Li family has a spirit transformation ancestor. After the shopkeeper of the Xuanfa pavilion learned the news, he immediately reported the matter back to the headquarters, but he knew that from now on, the relationship with the Li family must be established. Because Li Zhirui is a master of alchemy. A true master of alchemy who can deduce the formula of the elixir by himself. If he can refine the 5th level treasure elixir, he will be greatly sought after, because the spiritual objects that help the cultivators of the divine transformation realm are very few and the price is terrifyingly expensive, so they can only rely on their own cultivation bit by bit. This is also one of the reasons why it is still difficult for cultivators of the divine transformation realm to ascend to the sky, even though they have a lifespan of 2,000 years, because not all cultivators are like Li Zhirui, who can achieve the status of the divine transformation realm in just 500 or 600 years. Indeed, cultivators who can break through the divine transformation realm are all favored by heaven, but it does not mean that they are not very old when they break through. Even if Li Zhirui cannot refine the 5th level treasure elixir, the 4th level treasure elixir refined by the divine transformation realm is absolutely extraordinary in quality, and its value is still expensive. Compared with the Xuanfa pavilion, the shopkeeper of the Nanya Chamber of Commerce is more decisive. As soon as he got the news, he personally visited. Sorry, Ruzu is practicing. If you have anything, you can tell me. Li Wenli came forward to receive the shopkeeper. The shopkeeper was not disappointed, because even if Li Zhirui had not been in seclusion, he would not have come out to see him in person. He knew that he did not have such a high status, so he still had a smile on his face and said, I heard that a senior in your family had a breakthrough, so I came to congratulate you. I brought a small gift, please don't despise it. Li Wenli did not refuse. After thanking him, he stopped talking and waited for the other party to take the initiative to tell him his purpose. I think your family can cooperate more closely with the Chamber of Commerce. What do you think? Li Wenli refused without hesitation. The Li family would not tie him to a big tree, which would only harm themselves. However, for the sake of the Chamber of Commerce, he did not say it immediately. Chapter 761 Encounter. At some point, disapproval is opposition. As the shopkeeper of the Chamber of Commerce who welcomes and sees off guests, he immediately understood Li Wenli's answer when he saw him remain silent. It is impossible to say that there is no dissatisfaction in his heart. The strength of the Nanya Chamber of Commerce is much stronger than that of the Li family. They have now taken the initiative to come to the door and give the Li family enough face, but the Li family does not give them face. However, in business, the emphasis is on making money with harmony. Although he is dissatisfied, he did not show it on his face and changed the subject with a smile. Speaking of which, I have another request. After chatting for a while, Li Wenli suddenly said, I believe that fellow Taoist also knows how important the grade of spirit beasts is to the family, so I want to ask your Chamber of Commerce to help purchase some dragon beasts above the 3rd grade. The Li family originally had this plan, and now it is just right to use it to ease the relationship with the Nanya Chamber of Commerce. Okay, fellow Taoist also knows that the Chamber of Commerce is the most fair. The friendship between our two families is not shallow. If there are similar things in the future, don't forget me. The shopkeeper agreed with a smile. He had said everything that needed to be said, so he stopped teasing. Not long after, the people from Xuanfa Pavilion also came. Although they belonged to the same eastern region, their relationship with the Li family was a little more distant than that of the Nanya Chamber of Commerce. Now that a deity had appeared in the Li family, they naturally had to build a good relationship. In response, Li only agreed directly, but because of the contract with the Nanya Chamber of Commerce, there was no way to let Xuanfa Pavilion settle in Wangxian's Hao, so they could only continue to trade through the Xuanfa Pavilion that was deliberately separated and located in the border area with Texas Hao. In the next month, all forces within a radius of 10,000 miles sent gifts. The smarter ones, such as Wu Aishan and Shulingman, took the initiative to submit to the Li family and became vassals of the Li family when sending gifts. But there were also some ignorant ones, such as Xuanbing sect. Although they sent gifts, that was all, and there was no other action. According to the intelligence obtained by the Li family, Xuanbing sect learned from the previous Li family and started a semi-closed approach, trying to use this method to fight against the Li family. As for the demons in Texuzhao and Daxushan, they were in great fear. Humans can bow their heads and surrender to save themselves, but demons do not have this qualification. If they want the Li family not to attack them, the demons can only serve as slaves. This is unacceptable to any big demon. But they are not strong enough to beat Li Zhirui. If they want to live freely, they can only abandon this foundation and flee to the wilderness of the northern region, or the few gathering places of demons such as the 10,000 mountains in the southern region. Now the big demons are arguing about where to flee. In fact, Li Zhirui did not settle accounts at all, or expand the current territory of the Li family. If a settlement is really launched, Wangxiantao and its vicinity will become a battlefield, and a large number of lives will die. In this way, he will inevitably be stained with a lot of karma, which is absolutely impossible for Li Zhirui, who has broken through the incarnation of the spirit, understood the world, and faintly comprehended a trace of ascension, to agree. As for the expansion of the Li family's territory, so far, the Li family has not even completed the control of Wangxian's Hao. Blindly expanding is not a good thing, but will slow down the development of the family. In other words, whether it is the active vassalage of Wu Aishan and other forces, the vigilance of Xuanbing sect, or the escape of the demon clan, they are all their own ideas. Li Zhirui has never, at least not yet, the intention of expansion and liquidation. Now he is only full of deduction of the imagined 5th-level treasure pill. At the same time, in the westernmost part of Wangxian's Hao, this place with thin spiritual energy and poor spiritual objects can only accommodate a few Yuanying forces. It is the limit. A Taoist friend was born. It's really strange, I saw 2 Taoists walking leisurely in the air above the clouds. They seemed to move slowly, but every time they took a step, they appeared several miles away in the next moment. The 2 Taoist friends are one old and one young. The old man has white hair and a rosy face, the young man has a frosty face and ice-like skin and bones, but from the faint breath of the 2, it can be seen that they are 2 gods. The old man who had spoken earlier did not care about his companion's lack of response, and continued, I don't know what kind of law this fellow Taoist has mastered, and whether he has some kind of skills. You will know in a quarter of an hour. Listening to his rambling words, a trace of impatience flashed in the eyes of the young man, and he suddenly interrupted. This place is still thousands of miles away from Banyan Island, but for the 2 of them, even with such an easy walk, it only takes a quarter of an hour to get there. Fellow Taoist Yuxu, you have to change your temper. We cultivators are people who control the laws. Don't be infected by the laws. The young man's expression stagnated slightly, and suddenly stood still, bowed, and said, Thank you for your guidance, Elder Song. I know it's not a guidance, but I just don't want you excellent young people to go the wrong way. You know, this is a critical period and more strength is needed. Elder Song sighed softly and said, Let's go. Yuxu's face became serious, and she followed the old man silently. Not too early or too late, exactly a quarter of an hour later, the 2 appeared above Banyan Island. Well, The feng shui is good, and the spiritual veins are just so-so. I didn't expect there is such a blessed place in the corner of the Far East. A gleam of light flashed in Old Song's eyes, and he saw the situation inside Banyan Island through the layers of cover of the formation. There are so many dragon beasts on the island, I didn't expect it to be a beast-controlling family. The method of judging a family in a sect is very simple. You can tell them by looking at their clothing. Generally speaking, the hierarchy of disciples in a sect is strict, which can be reflected in their clothing. Although the family also has similar clothing, it is not usually worn on the body. Strange. This family has only 2 Yuanying, who have just been promoted from the giant in force, but they actually gave birth to Huishan. Old Song smiled and said. It seems that this Taoist friend is a genius. Hearing this, Yuxu's eyes showed a touch of surprise. Old Song has a high status and rarely praised as other cultivators like this. Li Zhirui, who was deducing the formula of the elixir in the quiet room, felt a sense of voyeurism when Song Lao was checking the Li family. He immediately released all his spiritual consciousness and spread it in all directions. Then he saw the 2 incarnations, one old and one young, standing above Banyan Island. Without any hesitation, he flashed and flew out in an instant, appeared in front of the 2 with a cold expression, and asked, I wonder what the 2 Taoist friends have to do? You actually spy on my Li family for no reason. Although the aura of the 2 people was higher than his, Li Zhirui was not afraid at all. In the battle between incarnations, the realm is no longer the decisive factor, but the degree of control over the law is. I don't know if it is a natural fit. In short, Li Zhirui still has some confidence in this regard. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 762 Promise. Fellow Taoist, there is no need to be so hostile to us, Elder Song said gently. My Taoist name is Song Shou, and this fellow Taoist is Yu Zhu. The 2 of us have come from the central region specially to visit you. I am Li Zhirui. They were already at the doorstep, and it was no use using a pseudonym, so he spoke his real name openly, and then asked, I wonder how the 2 fellow Taoists knew of my existence and determined my location from thousands of miles away? And what's the matter? The first 2 questions were very important to Li Zhirui. If his location was locked and someone had bad intentions, even if he was a divine transformation cultivator, he would not be able to escape death. Unless he hid in space and never came out again. Don't worry, fellow Taoist, Elder Song explained slowly. There is an ancient spiritual realm in the central region, which is only 3 meters in size. There is only one magic weapon, and no one knows its origin. But every time a divine being is born in this world, the magic weapon will show its location, but the location will not always be visible, and it will disappear after 10 years. Li Zhirui was skeptical, but did not question it. He just looked at the 2 quietly and answered the last question. Invite fellow Taoists to go to the central region and participate in the world's promotion, Elder Song said seriously after setting up restrictions around him. Li Zhirui's eyebrows jumped. He felt as if he had just come into contact with the truth of the world. He suppressed his wildly beating heart and said, I am of ordinary background. Please explain it in detail, fellow Taoist. This incident only happened in the past 1,000 years. It's normal that fellow Taoist doesn't know about it. He paused, as if organizing his words, and then continued, fellow Taoist, you should know that there are countless worlds in the universe. The Zuanian realm is just one of them, and it's just an insignificant little world, and the great of the world is not static. Some can go further, and some will fall into Gixu and the world will be destroyed. Li Zhirui nodded. He knew this kind of basic stuff. Connecting with the previous words, he vaguely guessed what the other party was going to say. At this time, Zuanian realm is in a critical period of promotion or destruction, and needs the help of a lot of powerful forces. If it succeeds, the world will be upgraded to become a middle thousand world, and the upper limit of our cultivation will be much higher. If it fails, the world will be destroyed and all spirits will be annihilated. If it were not so, the ancient magic weapon would not be so valued, and it would be impossible to run thousands of miles to find Li Zhirui, who had just broken through. Is the end of the failure of world promotion so terrible? Li Zhirui asked in a deep voice. Song Lao smiled bitterly and said, a small world discovered the existence of Zuanian realm and launched an invasion. If it is a normal promotion, Even if it fails, it will only lose some world origin, but this is an invasion. Both sides will never let each other go. In fact, the original accumulation of Zuinitan realm is not enough, and there is still a short distance from promotion, but as long as the other small world is swallowed, it can cross tens of millions of years of accumulation in one step. What's more, they have already come to the door. This is no longer a question of whether the cultivators of Zuinitan realm want to or are willing to do it, but how to win. If Zuinitan realm loses in the two world wars, all of these cultivators will become nutrients. Li Zhirui felt bitter. He finally broke through to the god transformation realm, but encountered this kind of bad thing that happens once every 10 million years. He didn't know whether to say that he was lucky or not. But I just broke through, and my strength is not enough. I'm afraid I will drag everyone down if I go. Caution prevailed and he refused subconsciously. Dao, don't worry. Not everyone is sent to the battlefield. Everyone has their own duties and has also made contributions and merits for the world's promotion. Song Lao also tempted, and we have established a merit list within us, which can be exchanged for many precious spiritual objects, such as 5th level treasure pills, 5th level spiritual objects, etc. Dao, are you an alchemist? The faint medicinal fragrance on Li Zhirui's body is evidence. If he is not a person who has been refining pills for a long time, his flesh body can't smoke out such a fragrance. That's right, there are several 5th level precious pill recipes in the treasure house, as well as the alchemy experience of the alchemy king Zhang Li. The first half of this sentence alone made Li Zhirui a little excited. With a 5th level pill recipe, he could learn the content and lay the foundation for his own deduction of the pill recipe. The second half of the sentence directly made him determined to help the world ascend. Alchemy King Zhang Li is the most powerful alchemist in Zuinitan realm so far. With the cultivation of Yuanying, he can deduce the 5th level pill recipe. When he was in the Yuanying realm, he deduced another 5th level pill recipe. Before ascending, he spread the countless pill recipes he created. To this day, many cultivators use them and are honored as the alchemy king. If he can get the alchemy experience of this eternal first person in the alchemy, it will be a great improvement for Li Zhirui's alchemy. And as an alchemist, as long as you don't take the initiative to attack, your safety is still very guaranteed. Seeing that Li Zhirui was a little excited, Song Lao continued to persuade him. I don't know what to do. Song Lao was overjoyed when he heard this. This sentence was equivalent to agreeing to his invitation. He hurriedly explained, this battle is in the void of the universe, and the opponent's cultivation limit is also the god of transformation. It is precisely because of the location of the battlefield that the combatants can only be gods of transformation. Those with insufficient cultivation have no way to stay in the universe. I need a day to deal with the family affairs, and tomorrow I will go to the central region with the two Taoist friends. Li Zhirui thought for a while and said, the reason for going to the central region is that the means to go to the void are there. Okay, then the two Taoist friends, take a rest in the West Mountain Market tonight. As he said, Li Zhirui led the way in front. He was unwilling to take two gods of transformation into Banyan Island. Before they separated, Song Lao suddenly had an idea in his mind. He looked back at Li Zhirui, with a gleam in his eyes, as if he wanted to see something from him. How is this possible? But the result surprised Song Lao very much. He couldn't see through Li Zhirui's luck. This was the first time he couldn't see the other person's luck after he broke through the spirit transformation. You know, the law he mastered was the law of insight. Although it didn't have any blessing on combat power, it could see through many things. Before, he saw the situation of Banyan Island through the formation with the help of the power of the law. Not to mention that his mastery of the law has reached a very high level, but even so, he still couldn't see through the thick fog on Li Zhirui. This discovery made Song Lao a little curious about Li Zhirui, and he vaguely felt that this person might have a big secret. However, for him, who was about to ascend, there was no need to distract himself to explore this matter. And Li Zhirui was also worried and didn't notice Song Lao's unusual look. Chapter 763 Benefits. As a bystander, Yuxu saw the reactions of the two people, but he did not speak, just pretending that he did not see it. After returning to Banyan Island, Li Zhirui sat in the pavilion and thought for a while, then called Jiang Fengwu, Daking and other close people, as well as the clan leader Li Wenli. The only one who was not among them was Li Changshuo. She went into seclusion a few years ago. Seeing her confident look, it should not be a problem for her to break through the nascent soul. Although she was delayed for 20 to 30 years because of Li Zhirui's breakthrough to the god of transformation, it was also the precipitation during this period that allowed her to naturally overcome the bottleneck. If nothing unexpected happens, in a few years, the Li family will have another nascent soul cultivator. In fact, it is not just Li Changshuo. Li Chengru also seized the opportunity to break through in the last 100 years of his life and is expected to achieve nascent soul. In addition, Li Xiangxin, Li Mingyao and other juniors with excellent qualifications also bloomed their own brilliance. Their cultivation has made rapid progress and they are striving to break through the nascent soul. Li Zhirui really no longer cares about family affairs, and even rarely appears in public, but he has always attached great importance to the outstanding younger generations of the family. Because he knows very well that the Li family cannot be supported by him alone. This is too frivolous. Once some kind of accident happens, the Li family will collapse. Therefore, Li Zhirui attaches great importance to these younger generations who consolidate the foundation and heritage of the family. For this reason, he also privately instructed the patriarch Li Wenli that if he finds any outstanding younger generations who encounter difficulties that cannot be solved, he can tell him and he will help solve them. If he is in seclusion or not in the family, he can also go to Zhang Fengwu, Daking, and Zhaoking. In short, he will definitely find someone. Speaking of which, Brother Jiu, you called us here. Is there something important? Zhaoking asked very directly. Li Zhirui nodded, and after everyone sat down, he said, I will leave for the central region tomorrow, and I may not be able to come back for a long time. What? As soon as this was said, everyone was shocked. Li Wenli didn't care too much at this time, and hurriedly said, Ruizu, if you leave now, Xuanbing sect will suddenly attack the family, and we won't be able to resist at all. Now almost all the monsters above the 3rd level in the demon tribe of the Great Snow Mountain have fled. Without the restraint of the demon tribe, Xuanbing sect can completely send all the nascent soul cultivators to the south to attack Wangxin Island. Li Zhirui did not expect that there would be people from the central region. There was no time to prepare for such a major event as the world promotion. It was normal for Li Wenli to worry about this. Don't worry, I will leave a countermeasure, and when he was thinking just now, he had already thought of a solution. Are you planning to make a split soul jade slip? Zhang Fengwu frowned as if he had thought of something, and said, I don't agree with you doing this. The power of the split soul jade slip is indeed not small. With this treasure in hand, Xuanbing sect is no match at all, but to split a trace of the soul, the price is really too high. If you don't cultivate well for a few decades, I'm afraid you won't be able to recover. But seeing Li Zhirui's vague expression, it is clear that what he is going to do in the central region is not a trivial matter, and there may be huge risks. If he is still injured, then Li Zhirui will be in danger. Don't worry, there is no danger in going to the central region this time, it's just more troublesome. Li Zhirui comforted the worried people. If he, an alchemist in the rear, has to go to the battlefield, then the situation in the Zuinitan realm will be dangerous. Just when Li Zhirui was about to persuade everyone, a voice suddenly came to his ear, and he hurriedly said, I will be back soon. Before the voice fell, it turned into a spiritual light and disappeared. I wonder if you have anything else to say. It was Song Lao who came back and said that there was something important that he had not finished. Dao Yao should know that this war will definitely last for decades, or even hundreds of years. In order to let all Dao Yao feel at ease and not worry about the family and the sect, the central region has hurriedly produced a batch of 5th level puppets and presented them to all Dao Yao who are willing to go to the battlefield. It is also a small token of my thoughts, as he said. He used his magic power to push a human puppet over. Li Zhirui took a look at the puppet and was shocked. The whole body of the puppet was made of 5th level spiritual materials. There are also puppeteers in the Li family, but they will never be so extravagant when making puppets. They can use low-level spiritual materials instead, and they will never use high-level spiritual materials. He couldn't help but sigh in his heart. How terrifying is the foundation of the central region? The 5th level puppet was given away as soon as it was said, and it seems that there are quite a few of them. Dao Yao helped me solve a big problem, Li Zhirui said sincerely. If there was no puppet, he really didn't trust the family. Didn't he know that making the jade slip of distraction would not benefit his own cultivation? It's nothing more than worrying about it. I'm just helping to send gifts, but I can't bear the gratitude of Dao Yao. I'm leaving tomorrow. Dao Yao should say goodbye to your family. I won't bother you. After saying that, Song Lao dispersed like a breeze. This scene made Li Zhirui stunned. The other party's escape method was really amazing. He couldn't tell where Song Lao was going. He dismissed these thoughts and returned to the cave. No need to refine the spirit jade slip. With his fifth-order puppet, it is enough to ensure the safety of the family. Li Zhirui waved his hand and took out the puppet. If the forces such as Zhu and Bing sect really dared to take advantage of Li Zhirui's absence from the family and attack the Li family, they would definitely not be able to return. Everyone was surprised. Li Zhirui only took it out for a moment, and when he came back, he actually had a fifth-order puppet. Brother Jiu, what's going on? Zhao King asked in surprise. The others also looked at him, hoping that he could give an answer. Li Zhirui thought about it and decided to tell them the truth, saying, Zuanetun realm encountered an invasion from a small world, and it is necessary to summon the spirit cultivators to fight, and this puppet is used to replace us to sit in and protect the safety of the family and the sect. Everyone was stunned when they heard this. They never expected that it would be such a bizarre thing. The 4 words world invasion were too far away from them. You have agreed, right? Zhang Fengwu calmed down and said, otherwise they would not give you a 5th-level puppet. Yes, although resisting invaders is dangerous, it also has many benefits. I don't want to and can't miss it, Li Zhirui answered with a firm face. According to Elder Song, as long as the small world is annexed, the Zuanetun realm can be upgraded to a middle thousand world in advance, and at that time, the Heavenly Dao will definitely distribute some merits to everyone, and maybe they will be favored by the Heavenly Dao, which will be of great benefit to future cultivation. Li Zhirui didn't want to miss this great opportunity. Chapter 764 Discussion. Brother Jiu, I want to go with you. Zhao King took the lead in expressing his opinion, and Daking and Xiao Kang also spoke up quickly. Li Zhirui rejected them without hesitation and said, you can't go, because the battlefield is in the void, and your cultivation is not enough, so you can't get involved in it at all, and if he stayed in the rear to refine the treasure pill and didn't need to fight at all, what's the point of taking Zhao King and others? It's better to let them stay in Banyan Island to practice well and protect the family. As soon as this was said, everyone fell silent. Practice well, after all, this kind of war between worlds cannot be ended in a short time. Maybe you can catch up. This is an excellent opportunity, of course, the premise is that Zuanetun realm wins. If it loses, everything will naturally end. After a long time, Zhang Fengwu said, then be careful and don't get hurt, don't worry, I'm refining the treasure pill in the rear. Unless it's a critical moment, I won't be sent to the battlefield. At this time, in an inn in Zishanfang City, Song Lao and Yuxu were chatting about Li Zhirui. Old Song, have you seen the law mastered by fellow Taoist Li? Why did we arrange Old Song to come? It was because he mastered the law of insight, and could see through the laws of other cultivators, so as to arrange their places reasonably and make the best use of their talents. Although he could not see through Li Zhirui's luck, Old Song saw the law he mastered, and smiled and said, the law of purification, combined with his alchemy, deserves special attention. The impurities contained in the elixir determine the quality of the elixir. If Li Zhirui can use the power of the law to upgrade the inferior elixir to the superior elixir, he will be strictly protected. He is a good logistics talent, Yuxu concluded coldly. You haven't seen his strength, how do you know that his fighting ability is not good? Yuxu stopped talking, bowed slightly, and turned back to her room. Young people are so arrogant, Old Song sighed, and went to do his own thing. There was no conversation that night, and on the morning of the next day, Li Zhirui left Banyan Island quietly. At noon, Zhang Fengwu saw that Li Zhirui had not appeared yet, so he pushed open the door of the alchemy room and realized that he had left. In the alchemy room, there were still precious pills made by Li Zhirui for them. Zishan Market. When Song Lao and the other two saw Li Zhirui coming, they smiled and said, Dao came quite early, since you have decided to participate, there is no need to drag it out, then let's set off now. The 3 of them boarded a spirit ship and flew westward at the fastest speed. With 3 gods of transformation, even cultivators who wanted to commit suicide would not dare to bump into them, but the journey was long and there was no way to arrive in a short time, so it was still quite boring on the spirit ship. In order to kill time, the 3 of them started chatting, or rather, only Li Zhirui and Song Lao were chatting, and Yuxu just sat aside and never spoke. I wonder if Master Song can tell me about the situation on the battlefield. There's nothing much to say about the battlefield. It's just a fight. Fortunately, in general, we still have the advantage. Master Song thought for a while and added, if you want to join the battle, you need to pay attention to one thing. That is, in the void. You can only exert your true power by using the power of the law to attack. If you use spells and magical powers, the power will be weakened. The law is not only the basis of the world, but also the foundation of the universe. Therefore, the power of the law can be intact in the void, but spells and magical powers are completely different. If you want to use them, you must rely on mana. However, in the void, there is chaotic aura everywhere, and its grade is one level higher than mana. If you use mana, it will be hindered by the chaotic aura, which greatly weakens the power of spells and magical powers. Thank you Master Song for your guidance. Li Zhirui bowed slightly to thank him, feeling a little helpless. The purification law he mastered was not like the thunder law and the fire law, which also carried additional power. So if he fights in the void, he will be at a disadvantage. Old Song, since this world will be found by the outside world and invaded, can we do the same? If it is possible, then we can quickly grow ourselves by annexing other small worlds. Yes, but there are many dangers in the universe. It doesn't mean that you have to attack a world you encounter, and even if you encounter it, how can you determine the strength of the opponent? Old Song smiled faintly and said, just like the current Yuan Hao realm, it is full of confidence to attack, but now it is at a disadvantage and in danger. He did not continue to talk about this topic, but turned to say, in order to quickly reach the central region, the three of us will take turns to control the spirit ship. Okay, Li Zhirui and Yuxu naturally would not object. Then I will start, followed by fellow Taoist Yuxu, and finally fellow Taoist Li. How about it? The two nodded again, and then each entered the cabin and came out when it was their turn. Time flew by, and more than 2 months passed in a flash, and they had already entered the central region, and it would not take long to reach their destination. I see you look so happy, but what good thing happened? Elder Song, who was controlling the spirit ship, asked with a smile when he saw Li Zhirui coming out of the cabin. Li Zhirui lied without blushing, there is some progress on the recipe. In fact, it was Akan, who had been sleeping in the space, who had changed a lot. His true body was originally a third-grade purple jade ginseng, but because of the huge mana fed back to him after Li Zhirui broke through the spirit transformation, he could not refine it, but accidentally used it to improve the grade. Now he has become a 4th grade 3-color treasure ginseng. Although there is no breakthrough in strength, the improvement of grade is also a good thing. For example, Akan's future cultivation speed will be much faster than before. In addition, there will be progress in the mastery of magical powers, the growth of spiritual wisdom, and so on. Elder Song, why are you controlling the spirit ship? Li Zhirui asked curiously. According to the order discussed before, it should be Yuxu. We're almost there. There are some checkpoints along the way that require my presence, so I'll be the one driving the spirit ship for the rest of the journey. Thank you for your hard work, Elder Song. If you have any instructions, just let me know. After this period of contact, Li Zhirui already knew that this senior named Song Shou was about to pass the calamity and ascend to heaven, so he had a very high status. When he first heard the news, Li Zhirui was very surprised. If it were him, he would never come out to run around during the last critical period, get involved in karma, and continue to accumulate to prepare for the breakthrough of the refining void. Chapter 765 revealed. A few days later, Elder Song called Li Zhirui and Yuxu out of the room. We're here. Li Zhirui walked out and saw a high platform with dense array patterns not far away. 9 tall and thick jade pillars were erected on the periphery, emitting a bright and precious light. They were 5th-level spiritual jades, and they were also engraved with complicated and mysterious array patterns. This array is called the 9 Extremes Ascension Array. You can use the power of the array to enter the void. The big forces in the central region have such an array, which is convenient for searching for treasures and cultivation resources in the void, Elder Song explained casually and smiled, but this ascension array in front of us is much more powerful. It can teleport several cultivators to the void at one time. Although the void is dangerous, it also breeds many treasures, and the grade is very high. Li Zhirui understood it in his heart. No wonder the big forces in the central region can always maintain their status. It turns out that there is an inexhaustible treasure house that can provide resources continuously. A trace of envy appeared on his face. It would be great if the Li family could get the formation. If you can accumulate a contribution in the war, you can exchange it for a formation method. However, this method requires a very high level of attainment in the formation, and it cannot be set up by anyone other than a 5th-level formation master, Elder Song said. Thank you, Elder Song, For your advice, Li Zhirui changed his previous idea. He originally thought that exchanging a few pill recipes and a few 5th-level spirit seeds would be good enough, but now it seems that there are better things. At this moment, the formation suddenly burst into a dazzling spiritual light, and then several gods walked out of it. Judging from their situation, they should have been seriously injured in the war and had to return to the Xuanitun realm to recuperate. Elder Song, but that's it. They came over to greet him. This scene made Li Zhirui feel that Elder Song's identity was definitely not simple. How is the battlefield situation? At present, we still have the advantage, but the offensive of Yuanhao realm is getting more and more fierce. I am afraid that we need to summon more fellow Daoists of Huishan to join the battle. Song Lao's expression did not change. He said softly that he knew, and then asked them to go and heal their wounds first. He turned around and said to Li Zhirui and the others, Yuxu, you send fellow Taoist Li to Yun Palace. I have something else to do. Yes, Yuxu, who had hardly spoken on the way, responded coldly. Then he walked straight to the platform and motioned Li Zhirui to follow. As soon as the two stood still, the formation started automatically and was teleported away in a torrent of spiritual energy. Song Lao came alone to a newly built courtyard not far from the formation platform. Has the newly promoted Huishan come with you, brother? There were 9 cushions in the hall, but now only 5 people were sitting on them, and the remaining 4 were empty. He has gone to the void, the law of purification, and the alchemist. It's a pity that he is not a 5th-level alchemist, otherwise the war might have ended a few years earlier. Song Lao sat on his own cushion and spoke. It's barely enough, Old Song said in a serious tone. Before I came, I happened to meet a few gods who retreated from the battlefield. They said that the situation on the battlefield is becoming more and more tense, and they can't resist it with the dozens of gods now. We need to summon more gods. No one objected to this, but someone suddenly said, should we tell the demons, the monsters and the Sea Clan about this? No, someone immediately objected. The demons have wolfish ambitions, and the monsters and the Sea Clan are even more alien. If they make great contributions in the war and are favored by the heavens, and rise from then on, what should I do with the immortal way? Can I still control the Xuanitun realm safely? When the Yuanhao realm invaded, it happened to encounter a god in the central region who went to the void to search for treasure. In addition, the immortal way deliberately concealed it, so until now, the demons, the monsters and the Sea Clan did not know that such a big thing had happened. My immortal way has been standing proudly in this world for many years, and our strength is far superior to theirs. Even if they have made great contributions, what can they do? Don't my immortal way have any contributions? Besides, they are not unaware of it. How long can they hide it? The two sides argued endlessly about this. One side wanted to monopolize the great credit, and the other side wanted to reduce the losses of the immortal way. Both sides had their reasons. Brother Song Shou, what do you think? Seeing that Old Song had not spoken, they took the initiative to ask, hoping that he could join their side. Since we can still deal with it now, we should not tell outsiders for the time being. After pondering for a while, Old Song finally chose a compromise. Both sides also took a step back and stopped arguing. But we must summon the divine transformation cultivators to join the battle as soon as possible. This earnest proposal was also recognized by everyone. This order was passed on to the major divine transformation forces in the central region through the magic weapon, urging them to send divine transformation to join the battle as soon as possible. But at this time, Li Zhirui came to the void for the first time through the formation. However, the feeling he had was not much different from the interior of Xuanitun realm, mainly because he was now in the Jiushan Cloud Palace, a 5th-grade magic weapon. After the Cloud Palace was activated, it was very large, with palaces that were connected to each other, enough to accommodate more than 10,000 people. It was this magic weapon that isolated the intrusion of the chaotic spiritual energy. Otherwise, Li Zhirui would never have such an idea. Thinking of the tearing pain in his body when he was teleported, he immediately understood why even with the isolation of the magic weapon, cultivators below the level of transformation were not allowed to come. This is where fellow Taoist Li will rest in the future. Go east after leaving the house. The hall with the Dan Palace plaque hanging not far away is where fellow Taoist will receive tasks and spiritual medicines. As he said this, he took down the J token hanging on the door and handed it to Li Zhirui. This is the token for entering and leaving this place. You must not lose it. Thank you for telling me. Li Zhirui bowed his head to express his gratitude. The long speech just now seemed to have said everything he could say today. Yuxu looked at Li Zhirui twice, turned around and left in silence. Li Zhirui looked at the direction he left, put away the jade token, and followed him. "Why are you following me?" Yuxu stopped and asked coldly. Li Zhirui pointed to the Dan Palace behind him and said innocently, "Dao, you misunderstood. We are just going the same way." Yuxu's eyes flashed with anger, and she turned and strode into the Dan Palace. "Dao is also an alchemist. If I have any questions in the future, can I visit you?" Li Zhirui hurriedly followed him in surprise and walked side by side with him. "No, Dao, don't be so heartless. Let's help each other," Li Zhirui said shamelessly. "Although I just broke through the spirit transformation not long ago, I still have some experience and accumulation in alchemy. For example, I am now deducing a precious pill that can speed up the practice of the spirit transformation." Li Zhirui said the last sentence by voice transmission. Yuxu immediately stopped and asked seriously, "Are you serious?" "Of course. It's just that the progress is a bit slow, but if Dao helps, it will definitely be completed quickly." Chapter 766 Trust. Sometimes, trust between people comes inexplicably. It is clear that Li Zhirui and Yuxu have just met for a short time, but he just feels that this person is trustworthy. Perhaps it is because of the faint medicinal fragrance on Yuxu that makes Li Zhirui quite friendly. Let's talk about this later. Let's go and get some tasks first. Yuxu looked at Li Zhirui deeply, restored her original indifferent expression, and continued to move forward. Seeing that he was already moved, Li Zhirui naturally did not urge him anymore. He followed him into the hall and checked the two large wooden boards hung with jade cards. Then Li Zhirui found that most of the task requirements were 4th-level treasure pills, not the 5th-level treasure pills he imagined. After thinking about it, Li Zhirui understood the reason, because the 5th-level treasure pills were not only difficult to refine, but also spiritual medicines were rare, so everyone could only settle for the second best. Then he saw Yuxu take off several jade cards for refining the 5th-level treasure pills, and was slightly surprised. He did not expect that this cold-faced Taoist friend was actually a 5th-level alchemy master. It is true that you can't judge a person by his appearance. 80% of the 4th-level precious pills need to be handed over. If it's less than that, you need to make up for it yourself. Li Zhirui couldn't help but smack his lips. A set of materials can refine up to 10 precious pills, and the task requires 80% to be handed over. This is extremely demanding for an alchemist. If he hadn't broken through to the God of Transformation, it would probably not be so easy to complete. Fortunately, the contribution value given is not small. He took the task of refining the precious pills that he can refine and walked towards the left hall, where the spiritual medicines are collected. Like the main hall, there are no people stationed there. After all, there are few cultivators now. It is impossible to arrange a God of Transformation here, right? Therefore, there are only a few puppets standing aside, responsible for picking spiritual medicines. It is said that all the puppets in the entire Yun Palace, who are responsible for such trivial matters, are controlled by a certain God of Transformation. Although rigid, it greatly saves manpower. A quarter of an hour later, all the spiritual medicines needed by the two were taken out. Both of them planned to refine more precious pills, so the amount of spiritual medicine they received was a bit too much, which took so long. "Let's go, let's talk." Yuxu looked at Li Zhirui seriously and asked him to follow. Soon, the two came to the courtyard where Yuxu lived. As soon as they sat down, Yuxu couldn't wait to ask, "Can you tell me in detail?" Since they decided to cooperate, Li Zhirui would not hide anything and told him his ideas and progress. Roxy grass, Yuxu showed a trace of surprise in his eyes. He didn't expect that this kind of useless spiritual medicine could be used in this way, and Li Zhirui really took the first step. "Give me a few days to sort out my thoughts, and then you and I will work together to deduce the pill formula. How about it?" The pill formula is very rigorous, and he can't digest Li Zhirui's results in a very short time. "Then I will wait for good news from you." Li Zhirui also understood this, so he didn't urge him. Seeing that he was absent-minded, he said goodbye and left. After returning to the room, Li Zhirui used his soul to escape into the space. The soul of the spirit transformation realm can leave the body, but it is extremely fragile and can be injured by a breeze, so few spirit transformation realms will do this. Li Zhirui is no exception, but he doesn't have these concerns in the space. He doesn't know the specific reason. The reason why he used his soul to enter the space was that he was worried that there would be shadows and peaks in the Cloud Palace. After all, this was a magic weapon, and the owner of the magic weapon controlled the highest authority. After Li Zhirui broke through the transformation of the spirit, the area of the space expanded again. Now it is as large as 2,000 or 3,000 miles. The terrain is rolling and uneven, integrating various terrains. Although spiritual objects can be planted on the land of the space regardless of conditions, if they are planted in a more suitable environment, the growth rate will become faster. And at the outermost edge, there is a larger sea area, which is the biggest change in this space. In addition, as in the past, the spiritual energy in the space has become more concentrated, comparable to the 5th level spiritual vein. The area of the space is too large, I can't handle it alone. When will Kanglong come in to help? Asan complained when he saw Li Zhirui's soul. Although he likes to plant spiritual objects, he can't stand the day and night, sleepless work. You were sleeping before, and I haven't told you yet. I have left Banyan Island and gone out to practice. Xiao Kang and the others were left in the family to practice, so for a short time, you can only take care of the space by yourself. Li Zhirui comforted. If you feel tired, just take a good rest and don't work. Just focus on those special spiritual objects. Maybe you can cultivate a few more demon spirits to help. How can it be that easy? Asan also wanted to have a few people of the same clan, but it was not something he could have just by thinking about it. However, he accepted the first suggestion, because if he continued to work day and night like this, he would not even have time to practice. Thank you for your hard work, Li Zhirui said a little embarrassedly. In the next few years, plant more Rongxi grass, which will be of great use to me. This is the purpose of his entering the space. When he went to the Dan Palace before, Li Zhirui carefully observed the spiritual medicine room. All other spiritual objects were there, but Rongxi grass was the only one he could not see. In the next few years, he and Yuxu would deduce the pill formula, and they would definitely have to practice it. In this case, Rongxi grass would be indispensable. Rather than spending a lot of money and wasting time waiting for spiritual objects, Li Zhirui decided to prepare in advance. After chatting with Asan for a while, Li Zhirui left the space. After a short rest, he began to refine the treasure pill. Because of the powerful soul of the divine transformation cultivator, he could observe and control the various medicinal effects and the temperature more meticulously when refining the pill, and improve the success rate of the pill. The success rate of the first furnace of treasure pills was just 80%, which was neither loss nor profit. Fortunately, he became more and more skilled and slowly reached 90%. In other words, Li Zhirui could get one for every furnace of treasure pills he refined. Fortunately, there was also a contribution value reward, otherwise Li Zhirui would have run away long ago in the face of such terrible exploitation. After half a month, Yuxu came to the door again. Dao, I think we should add another 4th level Kaianjizi to improve the sensitivity of the soul, so that the Yuan Qi can be better integrated into the soul, and the whole pill formula will become more harmonious. The moment the door was closed, he couldn't wait to say it. Li Zhirui was stunned when he heard this, then followed his words and added Kaianjizi to the rough pill formula, and then deduced it in his sea of consciousness and found that it was true. Dao is really amazing. Yuxu shook her head slightly. If it weren't for the foundation he laid, how could he have thought of it? Dao, do you think we should add a little more Rongxi grass to enhance the efficacy? Li Zhirui asked a question that had puzzled him for a long time. According to the current pill formula, the efficacy of the precious pill was not strong, far from what he had originally envisioned. Chapter 767 Temptation. Why don't you think about increasing the amount of 5th level spiritual medicine? That would make it more likely to achieve your goal, right? Yuzu asked back. 5th level spiritual medicine is expensive and rare, far less cost-effective than Rongxi grass. After all, the Li family did not have 5th level spiritual seeds. If Li Zhirui wanted to experiment, he had to spend a lot of money to buy them. He could only try to enhance the efficacy of the medicine from other aspects. Yuzu nodded in understanding. The conditions of the Li family were like that. They couldn't produce anything good. Moreover, if the cost of alchemy could be reduced, it would also be good for him. We can try it. First deduce the formula, and then purchase spiritual medicine from the Dan Palace for experiment. After a pause, he added, the formula will not be successful in 1 or 2 experiments, so we have to complete more tasks. It will be more difficult and busy. Taoist friends should be mentally prepared. I know, Taoist friends, don't worry, Li Zhirui responded loudly. Compared with the future path, the hardship at the moment is nothing. Then the two of them lived a long period of darkness. At the beginning, the two were just talking about it on paper and deducing the recipe. When they both felt that the recipe was perfect and they could start the experiment, the hard days came. Each material costs a lot of contribution points, and in order to get contribution points, they can only refine the pill, and they have to refine several furnaces of precious pills to exchange for one material. You know, in order to ensure the success rate of the pill, they must concentrate when refining the pill, but the consequence is that they can refine a few furnaces a day. But the two people's consumption speed is very fast. After all, it is not a perfect pill recipe that has been tempered for thousands of times, and there will be various and strange reasons for failure. It is not uncommon to consume more than a dozen materials in a day. What the two can do now is to sum up experience in constant failure and improve the recipe as soon as possible. A few years later, Banyan Island in the corner of the Far East. The robbery clouds in the sky turned into rich spiritual energy and poured below, which meant that another tribe member successfully passed the robbery. And this time, the person who passed the robbery was Li Zhirui. She successfully became a Yuanying cultivator. Mom, where's Dad? Is he in seclusion again? Li Zhirui's tone was a little depressed. After she successfully transcended the tribulation, she did not go back to consolidate her realm immediately, but asked Li Zhirui why he did not come to help her protect the law. It's not that Zhirui doesn't want to come, but he has important things to deal with. He left the family a few years ago, Zhang Fengwu helped to explain. What is it? I will tell you after you consolidate your realm, Li Shengsheng on the side urged Li Zhirui to go back to seclusion. Okay then, although he knew the reason, Li Zhirui was still a little depressed. The news that Li Zhirui was not in Banyan Island also spread and entered the ears of some cultivators with ulterior motives. In the main hall of Xuanbing sect, all the elders gathered here. While Li Zhirui is not on the family, why not destroy the Li family? Someone said viciously but stupidly. Will he not come back? Do you think we can survive if we destroy the Li family? And who knows if this is the Li family's plan? They deliberately released this false news just to find a handle and destroy the nearby forces with a legitimate reason. As soon as these words were spoken, the scene suddenly became quiet. If this was really a plan of the Li family, then there was no need for them to discuss it at all. In the end, everyone dispersed with little interest. Only the head of the sect and an elder did not leave. Elder He, do you have anything to say to me? If we say that the people who hate the Li family the most are the demons of the Great Snow Mountain, why not try to let the demons take action and test the situation of the Li family? Elder He said calmly, if it is a plan, then the demons are unlucky and have nothing to do with us, but if Li Zhirui is really out, we can directly attack the demons and reap great rewards. What should we do if Li Zhirui comes back and attacks the sect without any reason? The head of the sect asked calmly. Relocate, Elder He said with a firm face. Xuanbingzhou is a bitter cold place. The sect is trapped here, and the future is bleak. There will be almost no major development. It is said that there are 2 4th-level spiritual veins on Banyan Island. With the 2 original spiritual veins of the sect, even if the secret method of moving spirits is used, 3 4th-level spiritual veins can be kept intact. In this way, there is no place in the world where my Xuanbing sect cannot gain a foothold. 3 4th-level spiritual veins can turn even a place with little spiritual energy into a blessed land with rich spiritual energy. Elder He's series of ideas made the head of the sect stunned. He didn't expect that the elder's ambition was so big. Not only did he want to destroy the Li family, but he also planned to relocate the sect. But after thinking carefully, he had to admit that his method was indeed very good. Not only did he get rid of the threat of the Li family, but the sect also had a new and better development opportunity. Elder He, this matter is of great importance. Let me think about it for a few days. Although the head of the sect was tempted, he did not agree immediately. Elder He shouted excitedly, Master, this is a great opportunity given by God. We must not miss it, otherwise there will be no hope for the sect to rise in the future. I know, you go down first. The master waved his hand tiredly and asked people to leave. But Elder He still did not give up and tried to force the master to agree on the spot. Master, I say. You go down first. The momentum of the perfect nascent soul burst out, like a tiger descending from the mountain, staring at Elder He with murderous intent. Yes, Elder He trembled all over, and hurriedly bowed his head to agree. but his eyes were full of resentment. The master did not even open his eyes to look at him. He sat quietly for a long time before calling the elders he trusted the most and talking to them about this. Everyone had different reactions to this. Some nodded in agreement, while others felt that it was not reliable. Let's not talk about anything else, just talk about how to make the demon tribe take action against the Li family, with a hatred of the demon tribe of the Great Snow Mountain towards the Li family. As long as they know that Li Zhirui is not on Wangxin Island, they will definitely take action. The demon tribe must always remember this blood feud of migrating with the whole tribe, abandoning their ancestral land, and going to the wilderness to compete with other demon tribes for territory. Now there is an opportunity to take revenge. How could they miss it? Then how do you find the group of demon beasts? There are still third-level demon beasts left in the Great Snow Mountain, right? It will be enough for them to know. After a dispute among the crowd, the faction that advocated taking action finally prevailed because they had a reason that no one could refuse. After Li Zhirui broke through the god transformation, wouldn't he summarize his breakthrough insights and experiences? As long as Wangxin Island is conquered, won't such treasures fall into our hands? Who among them doesn't want to break through the god transformation and extend their lifespan? In the past, there was no hope, but now there is a shortcut in front of them, and they can't resist this temptation at all. Chapter 768 Massacre. This sentence also touched the heart of the headmaster. He had been stuck at the nascent soul perfection for many years. He originally thought that the possibility of breaking through to the god transformation was very small, so he became the headmaster and held power, but now there seemed to be a glimmer of hope. In this case, then do your best to promote this matter. But you must be careful not to be discovered, otherwise you will be charged with collusion with the demon clan and no one can save you, the headmaster warned with a serious look. This is not a trivial matter. Collusion between humans and demons and framing the same clan is a serious crime. No matter how good your cultivation is or what your background is, as long as the charges are established, even if you escape to the ends of the earth, you will definitely die. Don't worry, headmaster, I will take care of it. After several people left, the headmaster suddenly sighed. He didn't know whether his actions would harm the Xuanbing sect or really be useful. Have you heard? The Li family's god transformation just broke through not long ago and went out to experience. Two cultivators who were hunting monsters in the snowy mountains began to chat during their break. Is it true? He has already become a god. Is there any use for training? Of course it's true. Did the Li family give birth to another nascent soul not long ago? She is the biological daughter of this god, but when she was going through the tribulation, that person didn't show up to protect her. The Li family is really amazing. It's only been a short time, and they have become a god family, and there are more and more nascent soul cultivators. The two people's intentional chat happened to fall into the ears of a third-level monster. After hearing the news, it gave up the hunt this time, rushed back to the gathering place with the news, and hurriedly called all the third-level monsters to talk to them about it. I wonder what you think. Could it be a trap? And if we really want to do it, we have to go to the wasteland to ask the ancestors to come back, otherwise we alone are not the opponent of the Li family. The monsters were arguing again. But in the end, the hatred of the monsters for the Li family made them determined to take the opportunity to take revenge. It took the demon clan half a year to find the fourth-order demon in the wilderness and prepare for various things. Most importantly, during this period, the demon clan confirmed that Li Zhirui was not on Wangxin Island, so they had the courage to attack the Li family. Let's go. This time, the demon clan found a total of 18 fourth-order demons, dozens of third-order demon beasts, and countless low-order demon beasts, and they marched towards Wangxin Island in a mighty manner. The demon clan has taken action. The Xuanbing sect cultivators who had been secretly watching the demon clan's actions immediately reported the news back to the sect, so they also took action immediately, preparing to wait for the cicada to appear, and after both sides were defeated, they would come forward to clean up the mess. Ding ding ding. 9 urgent bells suddenly rang in the sky above Wangxin Island, and all the clan members instantly knew that the family would be in danger. Zhang Fengwu, Li Chengshen, Da Qing, Xiao Qing, and other Yuanying rushed to the family hall as soon as possible to ask what happened to Li Wenli. The demon tribe is leading a large army to Wangxin Island, and will arrive in about half an hour. Why would the demon tribe suddenly take action? Li Chengshuo frowned in confusion. They must know that Brother Nine is not on Wangxin Island, and they plan to take revenge on the family. Da Qing's guess was unanimously confirmed by others. Humph. Even if Brother Nine is not here, Wangsan Island is not a place where they can act recklessly. We must teach them a painful lesson that they will remember deeply. Let them not even dare to think about it in the future, Zhao King said with a cold face. Xiao King suddenly spoke up and said, I wonder what role the Xuanbing sect played in this. Do you mean that the Xuanbing sect will also take action? It's very likely. So everyone should be more prepared. What are you afraid of? Isn't there a 5th level puppet left by Brother 9? With the strength of the puppet, no matter who comes, it will be a death wish. Li Wenli saw that everyone was nervous but not worried, so he was relieved and quietly waited for the arrival of the demon army. Half an hour passed in a flash, and tens of thousands of monsters, led by 18 4th level monsters, completely surrounded the huge Wangsan Island. Everyone, use your most powerful attacks to kill the monsters, Li Wenli shouted loudly. Although time was tight, the Li family arranged it quickly, and all the clan members were put to use. The 5th level puppets were not used at the beginning. After all, these monsters were also good as objects for the clan members to train. For a moment, thousands of spiritual lights shot out, forming a colorful torrent of magic, smashing into the monster army. With just this one blow, many monsters died. The monsters also launched a violent and swift offensive. The 18 4th level monsters turned back into their true bodies. Their huge bodies brought a great sense of oppression to people, and they roared in unison, surrender obediently. Otherwise, you will suffer physical pain. So much nonsense. I want to see what you can do to me, Zhao King responded with disdain. A huge green rock raised a storm and entangled one of the big monsters. Li Chengsheng and others also found their opponents and started a fierce battle. Zhang Fengwu presided over the formation and fully activated it to resist the offensive of the monsters and create a favorable fighting environment for the cultivators. However, even so, the formation still shook and stirred up waves. In the face of the huge advantage of the monsters, the Li family cultivators only persisted for half an hour, and most of the tribesmen were exhausted and could no longer cast spells. Although the low-level monsters of the monsters suffered extremely heavy losses, they were originally cannon fodder for consumption. No matter how many died, the big monsters did not feel sorry. Without the resistance of the tribesmen, the island protection formation was under greater pressure, and the spiritual light began to fluctuate violently, shaky, as if it would break in the next moment. Ho ha, what if there are gods? You still have to die in our hands, a 4th level big monster laughed wantonly. But in the next breath, its huge head separated from its body and fell to the ground. This scene made the entire battlefield silent. God transformation, all the big monsters changed their expressions and turned around to flee without saying a word. Even though they didn't even see the shadow of the God transformation monk. Want to leave? All of you stay here. The offensive and defensive positions changed instantly, and Zhao King and others tried their best to entangle the 4th level big monsters and prevent them from leaving. How is this possible? Did they say that Li Zhirui is not on Wangsan Island? Could it be that the Li family has another God transformation monk? Looking at the one-sided massacre in the distance, all the monks of Xuanbing sect were stunned. The monsters wailed and struggled, and their flesh and blood flew, falling to the Wangsan Island below, becoming the top fertilizer to nourish the earth. Haha. It's worthy of the Li family. They actually set such a trap, the head of the sect sneered with a hint of bitterness and loneliness. Go back. Prepare to migrate and leave Xuanbing state. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 769 Abandonment. Master, it's not that bad, is it? We didn't attack the Li family. Why should we leave Xuanbing Zhao? An elder shouted unconvinced. Do you really think the Li family didn't find us? The master turned and stared at the elder, his eyes as sharp as a sword, piercing him speechless. They didn't know how powerful the divine transformation cultivators were, but they could vaguely see the battlefield near Wangsan Island from here, so how could the other party not find it? Let's go. When he said these two words, the look in the master's eyes disappeared, and he became sad and numb, and his body seemed to be hunched. The Xuanbing sect, which had been passed down for thousands of years, finally had to leave its ancestral land in his hands. The monks and the army also had other ideas. When the army returned to the mountain gate and began to collect spiritual objects and methods, some monks took advantage of the chaos to leave Xuanbing Mountain. "Master, are we really going to let these people leave?" an elder said indignantly. "The sect has never treated them unfairly, but now that danger has not yet arrived, they are avoiding it. They have fled. They have also taken away a lot of the sect's property. Let them go." The master waved his hand with a lack of interest, saying, "Perhaps the inheritance of the Xuanbing sect can grow in their hands. The most important thing is that it is too difficult to migrate the entire sect in a hurry. It is better to let some disciples leave on their own, which can also be regarded as reducing the burden." Under the master's indulgence in accelerated migration, it only took 3 days for the Xuanbing mountain, which was originally bustling with people and rich spiritual energy, to become a deserted and lifeless mountain. On the other side, many members of the Li family, led by Li Wenli, began to clean up the battlefield. Because the formation was intact, no one of the tribe members died, and the corpses on the battlefield were all left by the monsters. After the Fifth Order puppets were sacrificed, the demon army instantly collapsed. They had no intention of fighting and only wanted to escape to save their lives. However, the Li family monks tried their best to squeeze the mana, leaving behind a large number of demon beasts. The most noteworthy of these were the corpses of the Fourth Order demons. Even if they were dead, the pressure on them prevented low-order monks from getting close to them. Even if the giant monks could get close, they were helpless in the face of the strong flesh. They could only ask Daking and others to split the corpses. You know, the flesh of the Fourth Order demon is full of treasures. The flesh and blood can be eaten after some processing. The majestic spiritual energy and blood can not only increase the mana, but also strengthen the flesh. Fur, claws and the like are all top-grade spiritual materials for refining magic weapons. Faced with the flesh and blood piled up like a small mountain, Li Wenli discussed with the elders and distributed them all to the clansmen. This was originally obtained by everyone's bravery in killing the enemy, not to mention the huge number, and there was no way to preserve it well. As for the spiritual objects dismantled from the monsters, the clan members were asked to choose 2 items that were equivalent to their own cultivation, and the rest were stored in the warehouse. It was already 7 days later when all this was done. "Mother, the Xuanbing sect was also spying on us that day. Why didn't they also take them down and eliminate the sect that was hiding evil intentions?" Li Chengshu asked puzzledly. "How can it be as simple as you think?" Zhang Fengwu shook her head and explained softly. "The monster tribe was the main enemy that day, so we naturally had to find a way to eliminate it first, and the Xuanbing sect also retreated it the first time. Do we have to abandon the monster tribe and chase them?" The Li family did not have such strength at all. They could only rely on the 5th-level puppets to deal with the monster tribe. Then why didn't you go straight to Xuanbing's house after the war? Not to mention destroying them directly, at least you can make them lose a lot of vitality and dare not do these little tricks again, Li Chengshu asked relentlessly. She did not have a good impression of the Xuanbing sect at all. The farthest thing was hundreds of years ago, when the Li family was still a Jiandan family. Yuanming sect and Xuanbing sect had clearly agreed to jointly attack Taix's Hao, but they were tricked by Xuanbing sect, forcing Li Shiking to burn his life to save the lives of Li Zhirui and others at that time. The most recent one was the sudden invasion of the demon clan army this time. Xuanbing sect happened to appear in the distance. If you say that this has nothing to do with them, even a fool would not believe it. The activation of the 5th-level puppet requires a large number of high-quality spirit stones, but after the battle with the demon clan, the remaining high-quality spirit stones in the family are not enough to support a long-term war. The 5th-level puppet is indeed very powerful, but all of this is based on a large number of high-quality spirit stones. However, most of the Li family's high-quality spirit stones have been placed in the Spirit Vein under Wongsun Mountain to speed up its promotion to the 5th-level Spirit Vein, and there are not many in stock. Of course, you can also place medium-quality or even low-quality spirit stones, but the space for placing spirit stones in the puppet is limited, so you can't put many. If the spiritual stone is not high enough, the puppet will use up all its spiritual energy after casting 1 or 2 spells. In this situation, how could Zhang Fengwu dare to go out at will? Moreover, the cultivators of Xuanbing sect are not fools. After they return, they will immediately activate the mountain protection formation. Even if they have a 5th-level puppet, aren't we all targets? There will inevitably be casualties. This is also the main reason why Zhang Fengwu did not take action. After hearing all these reasons, Li Chengshu pursed his lips and stopped pursuing to attack Xuanbing sect, but she still had some reluctance to give up, and secretly inquired about the situation of Xuanbing sect, but the results surprised Li Chengshu. Xuanbing sect actually moved the whole clan, abandoned Xuanbing's Hao, and disappeared. After she brought this news back to the family, Zhang Fengwu and others were also surprised. How decisive. If it weren't for the ninth brother's breakthrough to the god of transformation, the family would sooner or later surrender to Xuanbing sect. Daquing was full of emotion. But Daquing had no idea that Xuanbing sect's view on the Li family was to destroy it, not to subdue it. They are just cowards who are afraid of death. Li Chengshuo curled his lips in disdain. Daquing shook her head and said nothing, not arguing with her because of outsiders. Now that Xuanbing's Hao has no master and the demon clan has also suffered a great loss of vitality, can we recover Texas Hao, connect it to Xuanbing's Hao, and expand the family's territory? Li Chengsheng suddenly spoke and changed the subject. Although Xuanbing's Hao is cold and not suitable for farming and mortal survival, it has an advantage, that is, because of the unique environment, it has bred many unique spiritual objects and rich spiritual mineral resources. If the Li family can get this land, it will definitely be of great benefit to the development of the family. Texas Hao is a little worse, and there is no difference from all over Wuxian's Hao, but there is a third-level secret realm. This is a treasure land. The Li family occupies such a large territory, but only controls a second-level secret realm, which is completely inconsistent with its status. If it can be cultivated well, it will become a pillar of the Li family's rise in the future. Chapter 770 Success. I forgot to mention that the spiritual veins of Xuanbing Mountain were drained by them, and now it is just a lifeless and barren mountain. I didn't go to other places, but I think it should be similar, Li Chengshuo added quickly. Zhang Fengwu said disapprovingly, it doesn't matter. There are many mineral veins in Xuanbing province. They can't empty all the spiritual mines in a few days, right? The Li family only needs to establish a few bases in Xuanbing province for the miners to rest. After all, that extremely harsh environment is really not suitable for mortals to survive. The Li family is not like the Xuanbing sect, who has no land to use and can only live in a bitter and cold place. There is nothing to say about Texas province. Just the third-level secret realm is worth the Li family's action. However, after everyone discussed, it was still the clan leader Li Wenli who made the final decision. After all, they were okay with taking action, but they were far inferior to Li Wenli in terms of governing the place. What the elders said makes sense, and it is indeed beneficial to the family. I will discuss a plan with the elders in the near future, and I will trouble the elders to take action then. As he said this, he bowed to Zhang Fengwu and others. Don't worry, I will never let any of the clan members be injured or killed with me here, Zhao King patted his chest and promised. It only took a few days for Li Wenli and a group of elders to organize an army of thousands of people, and these people were all from the Li family, without recruiting vassals and independent cultivators. It would not take so many cultivators to recapture Texas Hao, but the subsequent governance, such as reclaiming spiritual fields, planting spiritual objects, clearing out monsters and other trivial matters, would require a lot of manpower. The same is true for taking over Xuanbing's Hao, especially since the Li family did not know much about this place before. If they wanted to explore the spiritual veins and mineral veins in such a large territory, even if they put all the thousands of people in, it would only cause a little ripple. However, the Li family's posture of making a big move scared the Sanding sect and the Fire Demon sect in the west. Even the Wuya sect and the Shuling sect, which had submitted to the Li family, were worried that the Li family would march south one day and destroy them directly. The Li family did not explain this, but took this opportunity to deter all forces from making those small moves in the void. I shouldn't have asked the two Taoist friends, but now the war situation is tense. Many Taoist friends are fighting on the front line, and they are in urgent need of various precious pills for healing and restoring mana. I have to force some tasks to many Taoist friends who are busy in logistics. I hope the two Taoist friends will forgive me. On this day, Li Zhirui and Yuxu went to deliver the precious pills together, exchanged a batch of spiritual medicines, and received some tasks. However, they did not expect that there was an extra divine transformation cultivator in the Dan Palace today. His face was full of embarrassment, but it was not visible when he started fighting. He assigned a large number of tasks to the two. May I ask, fellow Taoist, is the situation okay now? Although this would greatly squeeze the time for Li Zhirui and Yuxu to perfect the pill formula, the two had no complaints. After all, they knew what was important and what was not. Alice, the man sighed and said, we have always had the upper hand, But when the other side saw that the situation was not good, they no longer stuck to the disputes between sects and Taoist traditions, and the difference in races. They dispatched a large number of demon cultivators and monsters, and gradually turned the situation around. Now it is disadvantageous to us, fellow Taoist. You might as well think about it this way. The Yuan-Hao realms move must be a desperate move. As long as we survive this offensive, we can take it down and devour the other world. Li Zhirui smiled and said, when the world is upgraded, many fellow Taoists will have great merits. In fact, for logistics personnel like them, when the heavenly Dao distributes merits, they are definitely not as good as the cultivators fighting on the front line. But they are extremely important. In the past, there was a famous saying that food and grass must be sent before the army moves. This world also understands this truth, so they are compensated artificially, and the contribution value of their tasks is very high. Ha, what you said is right. This kind of suffering is just the last darkness before dawn, not worth mentioning at all. Then this person's attitude towards Li Zhirui became much more enthusiastic, and he also gave some face in assigning more tasks, not causing too much burden to the two. Haha, fellow Taoist, have you never been dissatisfied because of your less merits? On the way back, Yuxu looked at Li Zhirui curiously. The two have known each other for several years now, and they often work together to improve the pill formula, so their relationship is naturally much closer. Otherwise, Yuxu would never ask such questions no matter what. I have always been quite self-aware. The laws he controls are not conducive to fighting. In the battlefield in the chaos, Li Zhirui is naturally restricted, and he has only broken through for 10 years. Compared with those old monsters, his strength is also much worse. Although Li Zhirui had thought about going to the battlefield to kill the enemy, he completely gave up the idea after meeting Yuxu. If he had that much time, he might as well work with Yuxu to perfect the recipe as soon as possible. I am not as broad-minded as you, Yuxu sighed sincerely. Unlike Li Zhirui, Yuxu's strength is not bad, and the killing power of the frost and snow lore he controls is also quite strong. At first, he wanted to kill the enemy and get some merit in the future. But because he is one of the few 5th-level alchemists in Zuinitan realm, it is impossible for him to go to war. Time flies. After more than 10 years of unremitting efforts by Li Zhirui and Yuxu, they finally deduced the recipe and named it Ronqi Yuandan. But facing the final result, Li Zhirui and Yuxu were not as happy as they imagined, because this recipe needs to be adjusted according to the situation of the user. For example, because of the different cultivation rules, Li Zhirui and Yuxu need to replace a main medicine, and the amount of other spiritual medicines must be adjusted accordingly. It looks simple, but it is extremely troublesome to actually operate. When the recipe was deduced at a later stage, the two found this problem and proposed a solution, which was to use chaos spiritual liquid to replace the main medicine that had to be replaced due to different laws. After all, chaos breeds all things and encompasses everything. No matter what law, the Yuan key is derived from it, and chaos spiritual liquid is also relatively easy to obtain. It only needs to compress the chaos spiritual energy to the extreme. But in this way, a new problem arises, that is, the effect is not as good as the tailor-made Ronqi Yuandan. Thank you for your hard work over the years. If it weren't for your help, it would probably take decades to complete this recipe. Li Zhirui restrained the complicated emotions in his heart and thanked him sincerely. Yuxu shook her head and sighed. It's a pity that it's still not perfect, it's already very good. Which of the 5th-level recipes circulating now has not been modified and improved thousands of times to reach the level of perfection it is today? Although disappointed, Li Zhirui was more satisfied in his heart. Chapter 771 Hand in. The most important thing is that the formula of Ronqi Yuandan that they perfected was based on the purification law and frost and snow law that they practiced. Later, they noticed the shortcomings of the formula and found a way to perfect a chaos Ronqi Yuandan. In other words, among the 3 versions of the formula they have come up with, there is a perfect formula that Li Zhirui can use directly. What else can he care about? Dao, I plan to offer the formula to obtain contribution points to exchange for spirit seeds and Shangsu formation. What do you think? Li Zhirui asked. After all, no matter what, the perfection of the formula has a great relationship with Yuxu, so how to deal with it must be asked carefully. If Yuxu can agree directly, it will naturally be the best, but if he doesn't want to, Li Zhirui will also offer the formula. After all, All the contribution points he got from completing tasks over the years have been spent on exchanging spiritual objects. More than a decade ago, the Yuanhao realm had a trend of collapse, and now it is forced into a desperate situation. It will not be long before the war ends. Of course, Xuanetun realm also took on a lot of pressure, because so far, only the cultivators were fighting against each other, and the demon cultivators and the monster race had not yet been allowed to join the battle. Obviously, the cultivators intended to take this great credit alone and further consolidate the position of the immortal way in Xuanetun realm. However, although the immortal cultivators were powerful, they were still a little worse than the one-sided world, especially the recent madness and recklessness, which caused the cultivators to suffer heavy casualties. So now there are gradually proposals to let the demon cultivators, the monster race and other forces join the war. Anyway, it is almost over, and they have occupied an absolute large part of the credit. It is okay to give up the remaining soup. And if this is really done, it will further speed up the time to conquer Yuanhao realm. But this also means that there is not much time left for Li Zhirui to obtain contribution points. If he misses this opportunity, then the price he pays for obtaining the spirit seeds and array diagrams may be many times more than today. So no matter what, Li Zhirui will not miss this opportunity. If Yuxu disagrees, he can only part ways with his Taoist friend who is quite compatible. This recipe was originally created by you. I just helped a little. You can do whatever you want with it. After a pause, Yuxu said, but you also know that my sect is mediocre and needs Ronqi Yuandan, so I hope you will allow me to hand over the recipe to the sect. Yuxu was being modest. Is it mediocre? Although Luofu Mountain where he is not a first-class force, it is second only to those major forces. The recipe is the result of your hard work. You can do whatever you want with it, Li Zhirui said very happily. In this way, both of them achieved their goals. However, Li Zhirui still took advantage of it. After all, he handed it over to the major top forces. When faced with this kind of precious pill that can speed up the speed of transformation, they will definitely attach great importance to it and reward him generously. He should get what he wants. Yuxu only handed it over to the sect. If we really want to talk about rewards, it is not necessarily comparable to Li Zhirui. But it was not all bad for him. At least after this incident, his reputation in Luofu sect would surely rise greatly, and all the gods would remember his kindness. Fellow Taoist, you can go to the main hall of Yun Palace and hand in the recipe for the elixir. I will not go with you. Yuxu said goodbye at the right time. If he went with her, he would definitely share some of the merits and rewards. He would be very satisfied with the rewards from the sect. Thank you for your help, fellow Taoist. Li Zhirui bowed respectfully and personally sent Yuxu out. After he sorted himself out, he strode towards the main hall in the center of Yun Palace. Are there already demon cultivators and monsters joining the war? Along the way, Li Zhirui found that the Yun Palace, which was originally sparsely populated, was now much more lively, and he saw many demon cultivators and monsters. In the eyes of the lower-level cultivators, they and the demon cultivators and monsters were definitely irreconcilable and incompatible, but in the upper level, although they were hostile to each other, conflicts rarely broke out. Because at their level, the main purpose is to ascend, to leave the remote, desolate, and spiritual world of Xuanetun realm, and go to a larger and broader world. It is not necessary to fight to the death because of any dispute over the orthodoxy or race. So on the way, when Li Zhirui met the demon cultivators and the demon clan, he pretended not to see them and walked away, and they did the same. Don't interfere with each other, and be clear-cut. After a while, Li Zhirui walked to the Cloud Palace Hall, the core area of this magic weapon. Li Zhirui of the Li family of Banyan Island has something important to see you. The Cloud Palace Hall is where the cultivators discuss important matters. Li Zhirui has been here several times before, but he just listened and never spoke. In normal times, there will be several top-level gods in the hall to prevent emergencies, and few people will come to see him on purpose. So Li Zhirui's sudden arrival, although they have never heard of his name, still let him in. Hello, seniors, Li Zhirui bowed. There were 3 people present. He happened to know the one sitting in the middle, who was Elder Song who brought him here. Sure enough, this senior had an extraordinary status. Li Zhirui thought to himself. I wonder what's the matter with you, fellow Taoist Li, Elder Song asked with a smile. This junior and a fellow Taoist have created a 5th-level pill formula, which can speed up the cultivation of the spirit transformation. Elder Song called Li Zhirui a fellow Taoist, but he was not qualified to really call him a fellow Taoist. At first, the three of them didn't take Li Zhirui's words seriously, even Elder Song, who seemed the most kind and approachable. He even felt that it was more unreliable than the other two. After all, he knew that Li Zhirui had just broken through not long ago. Even if he was talented, the pill formula he created was more of a gimmick than practical. But he never expected that the pill formula Li Zhirui mentioned would have such an important effect. "Are you telling the truth?" Elder Song asked with a serious face. "Every word I said is true," Li Zhirui answered solemnly. "Take out the precious pills first so that we can distinguish them," another transformation god urged anxiously. Li Zhirui handed over the 3 chaos Ronqi Yuan that he had prepared long ago, and introduced them. "This is the most basic precious pill. 1 precious pill can be equivalent to 10 days of cultivation for a transformation god, but it takes 3 days to be fully refined." "Basic?" Elder Song grasped the key point sharply and asked, "Do you mean there is an advanced version?" "Yes. This pill formula can be modified according to the laws controlled by the cultivator, and the effect can be enhanced by about 50%. Li Zhirui's attitude was quite respectful, but his words were a bit arrogant. Chapter 772 Applause. Really, after these words came out, even Elder Song, who had seen many storms, couldn't help but breathe faster. The other 2 gods were breathing faster, their cheeks flushed with excitement, and they were a little out of control. But thinking about the effect of Ronqi Yuandan, it seems quite normal. 10 days is 10 days, and the tailor-made treasure pill is 15 days. Even if it is impossible to take the treasure pill every day, and taking too much will make the effect decline, it is also a great benefit for the gods. You know, when the nascent soul breaks through the god, the lifespan soars for 1,000 years. Why is it so rare to ascend in such a long time? It is because the cultivation speed of the gods is too slow. They can only polish the heaven and earth yuan-ki bit by bit, and carefully fuse the yuan-ki with the soul. In order to fuse a strand of yuan-ki, it takes several days. And if you want to transform the soul into a yang god, so as to trigger the heavenly tribulation, you need about 36,500 strands of yuan-ki. If the bottleneck is ignored, it will take 300 to 500 years to cultivate to the perfection of the transformation of the spirit. If the bottleneck and other trivial matters are added, it will be impossible to concentrate on cultivation. 700 or 800 years may be gone. In addition, the soul needs to suffer from the internal tribulation of wind and fire before it can become a yang god. It must be well prepared, which takes another 100 years. After this calculation, the more common transformation of the spirit cultivators who want to transcend the tribulation and ascend to heaven have reached the end of their lifespan. Of course, geniuses cannot be measured by common sense. There are people who break through the refining void in less than 1,000 years. Such mythical figures have been born in the Zuinun realm. However, in the history of the Zuinun realm for hundreds of thousands of years, only 2 people have been born. Most of them are of good qualifications, but they are only good. But if there is the Ronqi Yuandan mentioned by Li Zhirui, the transformation of the spirit with better qualifications can save a lot of time and have a chance of breakthrough, and those transformation of the spirit who are already expected to ascend can also survive the tribulation in a better state. You know, cultivators will also age. Once you get old, it means that you will have less energy, a decline in willpower, and other problems will follow one after another. Whether it is the internal tribulation of wind and fire, or the final tribulation of ascension, it will cause certain or even great obstacles, leading to failure and thousands of years of hard work. Therefore, if you want to break through the realm, it is best to do it before aging, when both the body and the soul are at their peak. For example, why is it said that if a key cultivator fails to break through the foundation before the age of 60, the hope will be slim? Because they are getting old. The appearance of Ronqi Yuandan has allowed them to see a road leading to the refining of the void, a smoother and flatter road. Besides you, how many other people know this recipe? Faced with such a treasure, their first reaction is to seal it and not let it be passed on. Otherwise, the status of their forces will be affected to a certain extent. At this moment, Li Zhirui's hair stood up all over his body, and he said calmly, "Dao Iao Yuxo Vluofu sect has perfected the recipe with me. He should have reported it to the sect now." Li Zhirui saw their plan, so he pointed it out directly. In fact, when Li Zhirui made the decision to hand over the recipe, he also thought about whether these big forces would see the effect of Ronqi Yuandan and directly take it away by force, or even kill him directly. After all, The Li family he came from, strictly speaking, can only be regarded as a Yuan force. In the eyes of these people, it is just an ant that can be crushed to death at will. And he himself has just broken through and his strength is mediocre. But Li Zhirui thought that besides him, there was also Yuxa who knew the recipe. Even if he killed him, he couldn't control the recipe in his own hands, so he decided to take a gamble. Fortunately, he won the bet. After hearing what Li Zhirui said, the other party gave up the idea of killing him. Since he couldn't monopolize it, his life or death was not important. It turned out to be Yuxu boy. I didn't expect you and him to join forces to do such a big thing. It's really amazing, Song Lao praised with a smile, and his eyes flickered at all. And with Song Lao's words, the atmosphere in the hall became gentle. Leave the chaos pill and the recipe, as well as the advanced pill and the recipe, for now. After we confirm everything is correct, we can talk about the reward for you. How about that? Yes, Li Zhirui respectfully handed over the pill and the recipe, and slowly withdrew. His body, which had been tense all the time, relaxed a little, and strode towards his own cave. At the same time, he was also a little surprised and suspicious. This move was too bold and adventurous. With his temperament, he shouldn't be so anxious. But after returning, Li Zhirui carefully checked his sea of consciousness and found no signs of the demon in his heart. He had to temporarily suppress his suspicion and adjust his state of mind. After Li Zhirui left, several spiritual lights came out of the main hall of the Cloud Palace. Not long after, the cushions were full of people. The three of you are so anxious to call everyone here. Is there something wrong on the front line? A certain impatient incarnation asked immediately after seeing everyone gathered. It's not because of this, but it's also very important. Then, he told Li Zhirui about the pill formula he handed over. Is that Ronqi Yuandan really as powerful as that kid said? A big man questioned loudly. Over the years, their forces have tried to deduce the pill formula, and they have succeeded before, but it's either too expensive, or the effect is mediocre, or it's extremely difficult to refine. In short, there are all kinds of problems. You know, the forces they are in are all top-level forces. What they haven't done is actually done by two gods. It's simply a fantasy. Unbelievable. The three of us are not alchemists, and we don't understand this pill formula very well, so we called everyone together to verify the effect. The customized Ronqi Yuandan cannot be verified for the time being. None of them control the purification law, but the chaos Yuandan is still very easy to verify, and the effect can be known by taking it directly. As for whether Li Zhirui will tamper with it, as long as he doesn't want to die, he will not do such a stupid thing. I'll do it. Seeing that no one spoke, the big man who questioned the Yuandan took the initiative to stand up. He put away the Yuandan and went to the side hall to refine it. The other gods continued to stay in the main hall, waiting and discussing how to resolve the war that was coming to an end as soon as possible. 3 days later, the big man came back from the side hall. Before he spoke, everyone knew the result. He only heard a loud voice full of joy. The Yuandan is indeed as that kid said. I have refined a total of 10 strands of heaven and earth yuan qi in these 3 days. Good, with this precious pill, our future cultivation path will definitely be smoother. The gods cheered loudly and were very excited. Chapter 773 Changes. This is still a universal primordial chaos pill. If it is tailored according to personal rules, it can refine 15 strands of heaven and earth primordial qi in 3 days, which will definitely greatly speed up everyone's cultivation speed. Let's discuss what reward to give to that kid now. The scale must be grasped. If it is too much, they will not be willing, and if it is too little, Li Zhirui will also be reluctant. Since he took the initiative to hand over the pill formula, he must have something to ask for. It is better to listen to his intentions. If it is not too much, just agree to it directly, so as not to waste our time here. As soon as this was said, it was agreed by all the gods. So, the next day, Li Zhirui received a sound transmission note asking him to go to the hall. Have you finally discussed what reward to give me? Li Zhirui is a little worried now, worried that they will use their power to suppress him and send him away with some spiritual objects. But when he walked into the hall and knew what they meant, he was relieved. It seems that Li Zhirui wants a lot of spiritual objects, a 5th level spiritual seed, and a method of the ascension formation. In fact, there are only 3 items, not many. Well, but you are still too modest. This Ronqi Yuandan is a precious pill that will benefit future generations. If you only give me this little, I would think you are being bullied. The incarnation paused and continued, "How about this? In addition to the 3 spiritual objects you want, I will give you 200,000 contribution points. What do you think?" Li Zhirui was very surprised. He didn't expect to have an unexpected gain, 200,000 contribution points. Maybe it's not worth mentioning in the eyes of these higher-ranking bosses, but you have to know that Li Zhirui has worked hard to refine precious pills for more than 10 years, and he has only earned more than 300,000 in total. "Thank you, senior," Li Zhirui bowed excitedly. How could he not agree to such a good thing? As for whether there was any calculation behind this, with the status of these major forces, there was no need to go through so much trouble. Just crush Li Zhirui to death, and no one would say anything. "The reward will be delivered to your door tomorrow at the latest." Li Zhirui said goodbye tactfully after hearing this. After returning to the cave where he lived, Li Zhirui was very excited. Although he did not participate in the World War, he could still get some merits as a logistics worker. But the most important thing was to perfect the recipe of Ronqi Yuandan, as well as the 2 main medicines and Shengsu formation required for purifying Yuandan. Although the Shengsu formation could not be arranged in the current situation of the Li family, it was still obtained first. As for the 200,000 contribution points, it was a completely unexpected gain. With this income, he could also think about what spiritual objects to exchange. But then Li Zhirui gave up the idea and stood up and walked towards Yuxu's cave. He couldn't share the spiritual seeds, formation diagrams, etc., and he didn't need to share them, but Yuxu should have a share of this contribution value. But when Li Zhirui arrived at the cave where he lived, he suddenly found a jade plaque hanging on the door. This means that Yuxu no longer lives here. Is she protected by the sect? Considering the value of Ronqi Yuandan, it is normal for Luofu sect to do so. And Yuxu's own value is also worthy of Luofu sect's serious treatment. 5th level alchemist. This is not a title that any casual cultivator who can make alchemy can take up. If it weren't for this battle, if it weren't for the Yuandan as a trigger to track Yuxu, the 2 of them had been discussing the way of alchemy for more than 10 years, which made Li Zhirui's alchemy cultivation advance by leaps and bounds. At this time, he could not be called a 5th level alchemist. "I can only wait for Taoist Yuxu to come to me," Li Zhirui sighed and turned back. The next day, he got the spirit seeds, formation diagrams and contribution points. But unexpectedly, in addition to the formation diagram of the Shengsu formation, there were also a set of formation plates and formation flags. This made Li Zhirui overjoyed. With the ready-made formation plates and formation flags, he could follow the Gordon set up to formation. Even if he was worried about what would go wrong, he could ask Zhang Fengwu. With her talent in formation, it would definitely not be a problem. In the following days, Li Zhirui would not step out of the courtyard gate except to receive and deliver tasks in Dan Palace. First, he wanted to earn more contribution points while the war was not over. After all, there were very few opportunities to directly obtain high-level spiritual objects and methods like this, and it could be said that there were none. Second, there were many demon cultivators and big monsters in Yun Palace. These guys made Yun Palace a mess and liked to provoke monks from time to time. Li Zhirui naturally avoided them. Time passed day by day. Knock knock, the sudden knock on the door woke Li Zhirui, who was resting with his eyes closed, instantly, but he did not rashly open the courtyard door, but asked, "Who is it?" The reason for being so careful was because of the existence of demon cultivators and big monsters. They did not dare to really do it, but they had a bad temper and liked to tease monks, and then laughed at the monks' embarrassed appearance. The reason why the demon cultivators and big monsters were so presumptuous was that Yuanhao realm seemed to have really reached the end of the road. The fight was a life and death fight, and it was either you die or I'll live. The cultivators naturally did not want to fight with such desperate criminals, so they wanted to let the demon cultivators and monsters take action. Now was the time when they were needed, so they let them go a little. Li Zhirui was lucky. When he was delivering the task in the Dan Palace, he heard from a Taoist friend that he was extra careful after returning, and he had not been fooled yet. Yuxu, hearing the visitor introduce himself, Li Zhirui carefully opened the courtyard door. "Daoao, come in quickly." Yuxu saw this and said, "Daoao, you are too cautious. The demon cultivators and big monsters are rampant and arrogant, so you'd better be careful." Li Zhirui did not talk much about this topic, and turned to say, "By the way, I handed in the pill formula and got 200,000 contribution points, of which Daoao should get half." This pill formula was originally created by Dao Yao, so you don't have to share it with me. Yuxu refused without hesitation. What are you talking about, Taoist friend? If it weren't for your help, how could we have completed the recipe so quickly? And over the years, I have paid a lot for the recipe. I am already very embarrassed to have the audacity to monopolize a large part of the reward. How can I monopolize this 200,000 contribution points? As he said that, Li Zhirui took out a J token without allowing any refusal and gave him half. Yuxu couldn't say anything more when she saw this. I almost forgot what I was doing here, Yuxu said seriously. The situation on the battlefield has changed. Taoist friend, you must be more careful. Li Zhirui's heart skipped a beat, and a bad feeling came over him. He hurriedly asked, can Taoist friend tell me in detail? I don't know too much information, but the elders in the sect have repeatedly warned me to pay attention to safety. Li Zhirui immediately bowed and said sincerely, thank you for your reminder, Taoist brother. I will be more careful. Yuxu really treated him as a friend to tell him such important news. Chapter 774 Crazy. Yuxu did not stay for long. After warning Li Zhirui, she left in a hurry. What accident happened on the battlefield? Li Zhirui frowned and pondered. According to the information he knew, after the outbreak of the war between the two worlds, except for the sudden arrival of Yuanhao realm at the beginning, which caught them off guard, there was a short period of time in the middle period when it had the upper hand. In addition, this war has lasted for more than 10 or 20 years and is approaching its end. At this last moment, there seems to be no other ending for Yuanhao realm except to fight desperately and cause greater casualties to Zuinun realm. Unfortunately, Li Zhirui has been refining precious pills in the rear, and he doesn't know much about the situation on the battlefield. He can't analyze the situation at all, and can only take Yuxu's warning to heart. Maybe I should exchange the contribution points in my hand for spiritual objects now, in case something unexpected really happens. There is no need to worry about not being able to exchange spiritual objects for a while. Thinking of this, Li Zhirui simply got up and walked towards the Palace of Spiritual Objects. In fact, this is the place to exchange spiritual objects. He and Yuxu exchanged spiritual medicines in the Dan Palace before, which was a bit against the rules, but they acquiesced because they were both alchemists. But this time, Li Zhirui wanted to exchange a lot of spiritual objects, and many of them were not spiritual medicines, so it was more appropriate to go directly to the Spiritual Object Palace. Avoiding the demon cultivators and big monsters, he arrived at the destination safely. After saying that he was here to exchange spiritual objects, he was led into a closed compartment by the puppet. As early as when he got the contribution points, Li Zhirui had already thought about which spiritual objects he wanted to exchange, so he directly handed the list jade slip to the puppet and asked it to fetch the spiritual objects. A total of 101,390 contribution points, Li Zhirui handed over the jade card after hearing this. In an instant, the more than 100,000 contribution points in his hand were used up, leaving only the last little bit. Among the spiritual objects selected by Li Zhirui, there was a 5th-level wood spiritual object, which was used as a backup by decking. If the Liuhu wood transplanted in the space could not bear fruit, this spiritual object could be used as a substitute. If decking was not used in the end, he could also integrate it into his life magic treasure Qianling to enhance its power. After a while, another puppet came in with the spiritual objects that Li Zhirui wanted. In fact, there were only 3 or 4 spiritual objects. In addition to the wood spiritual object, there was also a cultivation perception of the transformation realm, a 4th-level earth escape talisman method, and a 4th-grade spiritual plant, Jinshan green willow. Needless to say, the cultivation perception is of course necessary. He needs relevant experience, rather than slowly exploring it by himself. The Earth Escape Talisman method is to give the tribe members a means of life-saving. After Li Mingayao breaks through the nascent soul, he can learn to draw it. The last 4th-grade spiritual plant is Li Zhirui's plan to open up a 2nd spiritual realm on Banyan Island, a spiritual realm with a richer purification law. This method started when he broke through the transformation realm and was able to see the laws of heaven and earth. When he accidentally entered the Uteo spiritual realm, he found that there were more 5 elements laws in the spiritual realm than other laws. Then in a conversation with Yuxu, it was determined that the difference in suppressing spiritual objects would affect the number of laws in the spiritual realm. Although the effect is not very obvious, it is better to have it than not. After all, cultivating immortals requires money, friends, wealth and land, and the environment is also a very important factor. It just so happens that Li Zhirui is now a god. Combining his own cultivation and Zhang Fengwu's dongling breaking the sky array, he thinks he can open up a larger spiritual realm and provide more and better environments for the breakthrough of the family's children, Yuanhao realm. Do you think we still have hope of winning this battle? A god with a shriveled face asked in a hoarse voice. As soon as these words came out, the scene instantly became so quiet that you could hear a pin drop. In the huge palace, all the living god cultivators from the three parties of Yuanhao realm, demons and monsters were sitting. But if you look closely, you will find that their situation is very bad, and almost no one is not injured. Speaking of this war between the two realms, the origin is just an accident. When a god cultivator from Yuanhao realm was looking for spiritual objects in the void, he found that there was a small world not far away, and then he started a fierce debate on whether to invade this realm. Some people have been waiting nearby for several years. They found that there were not many divine transformation cultivators entering the void to search for treasures, so they thought that the other party was weaker, so they decided to take action. But they never expected that they would hide a wall. At first, the other party suffered a little loss, but when they reacted, the cultivators of Yuanhao realm and other places found that they were not opponents at all. Even if they called on the demon cultivators and the demon clan, they were still suppressed and beaten. They wanted to retreat, but it was no longer something they could decide at that time. I don't know what you think. Abandon Yuanhao realm and escape to the void, the old man said with a firm face. Wow, the hall was in an uproar. They never expected that it would be such a bad idea. You know, every living being is closely related to the world they come from. If the world is destroyed, even if the cultivator survives, he will lose his roots, just like a rootless duckweed, and it is almost impossible to grow stronger. There are two ways to avoid this situation. One is to ascend and leave, so that it is considered to be beyond this world. No matter how the world changes, it will not affect oneself. The second is to be accepted by another world, which is considered to change the foundation. There is no need to elaborate on how difficult the former is, the latter is not an easy matter either. If you want to be accepted by other worlds, it is difficult to succeed unless you have made great contributions to the evolution of the world. If you fail, it's just death. I will never be a dog that loses its home. Immediately, a spirit of transformation stood up to object. This Taoist friend, don't say it so embarrassingly. Haven't you heard of making a comeback? As long as we are still alive, we will be able to take revenge one day. The old man seemed to have expected that someone would stand up to oppose, and persuaded him slowly. How? Wandering in the void and losing our roots, we are not their opponents now. Why do you think you can beat them in a few years? It's just death. In the Yuanhao realm, which was at an absolute disadvantage, the pro-war faction actually completely overwhelmed the peace-seeking faction. Most of the spirit-transforming cultivators planned to fight with the Zuinitan realm cultivators and take away as many as they could. Therefore, the situation on the battlefield changed drastically. Under the impact of the fearless Yuanhao realm spirit-transforming cultivators, the casualties of the Zuinitan realm increased sharply. However, as more and more spirit-transforming cultivators joined the battle, the situation gradually leaned towards the Zuinitan realm. Li Zhirui, who had been staying in the rear, also became extremely busy. He had to refine endless precious pills every day, but he never let go of Yuzu's warning in his heart, so no matter how busy or tired he was, he would go to collect information from the battlefield. If this continues, Yuanhao realm will be swallowed up sooner or later. To be more precise, they have already lost, and there are only 20 to 30 gods left, which can't change the outcome at all. What are you going to do, brother? Destroy Yuanhao realm? Don't let the other side swallow it. The god looked crazy and ferocious. Chapter 775 Casualties. Notify everyone immediately and blow up all the spirit veins in Yuanhao realm. I want Zuinitan realm to gain nothing this time, the man kept saying, as if he was possessed by a demon. No. Not only that. I want Zuinitan realm to suffer heavy casualties. He stared at everyone with scarlet eyes and shouted, who of you is willing to die with me? He planned to self-destruct on the battlefield and attack the cultivators of Zuinitan realm with an almost irresistible impact. The madness in his words made the others tremble all over. They never expected that this fellow would be so terrifying. If the spirit veins were really destroyed, the laws of Yuanhao realm would decay, and the entire human world would slowly wither and die, and finally fall into the abyss. Even if such a world is swallowed up, it would be nothing more than an empty shell of little use. Don't you want to? Unless you escape to the void and become a rootless person, is there any way to survive? The man sneered, swept his eyes full of sarcasm from everyone, stood up and strode away. Even though they knew they could not escape death, it was still very difficult to make someone die voluntarily. Not everyone had the courage. If you don't want to do it, don't stop me, or else don't blame me for being ruthless. The voice came from afar, and everyone recovered from their shock and panic. What do you think? If we die, we should die with vigor. As he said that, he hurriedly chased after them. But more people still did not take action, sitting in silence. They had originally tried to fight, but after experiencing a series of cruel and brutal fights, they changed their minds. Perhaps surviving is also a way. Maybe they will be accepted by a certain world and continue on the path? I don't know who got up first, but he did not go to Yuanhao realm, but to the depths of the void. Someone took the lead, and others responded one after another. In just half a quarter of an hour, more than a dozen incarnations disappeared. The 2 incarnations who returned to Yuanhao realm instructed all cultivators, demon cultivators, and monsters to destroy the spiritual veins they had seen. Compared to the gods who could still escape to the void and survive, these creatures had only one way to die. So when they understood the reason, they immediately took action. When the spiritual veins were blown up, the whole world became gray, and the deathly aura was so strong that even mortals could see that all creatures released the beasts in their hearts and held the last carnival banquet before the end of the world. The 2 gods who stayed behind sat high in the clouds, overlooking those crazy actions, and they were already in tears and extremely sad. This world that gave birth to them and raised them will disappear completely soon. Is Yuanhao realm surrendering and waiting for death to come? For several days, the originally crazy monks of Yuanhao realm are now as silent as death. No gods came out to fight, which aroused the suspicion of many people. But no matter what, they could not imagine how determined Yuanhao realm was. In the main hall of Yun Palace, the gods who were responsible for deciding various matters also gathered together to discuss this strange situation. It shouldn't be that serious, right? They were so crazy before, how could they change their minds so quickly? Don't you think about how many gods are left on the other side? In this situation, what else can they do except wait for death? We can't keep on being deadlocked like this. Why not send someone to sneak into Yuanhao realm to investigate the reason? It's going to be done sooner or later anyway. Sneaking into other worlds is a very dangerous thing. The cultivators from the outside world will be suppressed by the local heavenly way, and their strength will drop sharply. It is the limit to maintain 30% to 40% of their combat power. Not only the cultivators themselves, but also magic weapons, talismans and other spiritual objects will be affected by the different laws. Once you run into the other side's gods, you can't even escape. But the war between the 2 worlds cannot avoid sending such a person, because it is necessary to set up attraction formation in the other world to make the 2 worlds contact. But this is usually done after the war is over, and it is safer before people are sent. Who should be sent? I'm afraid the demon cultivators and the demon race will not agree to such an obvious act of sending death. There must be brave men under a heavy reward. But before everyone could discuss it, they heard that 2 figures flew out of Yuanhao realm and headed straight for Yun Palace. Could it be that they are here to make peace? After saying this, he even laughed. How could the war between the 2 worlds make peace? One side must die. Boom boom, a series of continuous explosions made everyone's faces change drastically, and they immediately flew out of the hall to check the situation. Not good. Prepare for defense. Song Lao and several of the most advanced gods changed their faces and shouted in a hurry. Unfortunately, it was still a step too late. Boom. Boom. 2 earth-shaking explosions bloomed in the void, and the terrifying and huge energy swept in all directions. The chaotic aura, which was already restless and explosive, was instantly ignited, and the huge waves of destruction engulfed everything. The several spiritual lights that were propped up in succession suddenly broke, and the Cloud Palace shook violently. This 5th-level top-grade magic weapon only lasted for 2 breaths before it was blown into pieces. The creatures in the Cloud Palace were all very alert. As soon as they noticed something was wrong, they took out their strongest means of defense. Li Zhirui, who was refining the elixir, was so anxious that he gave up the precious elixir in the furnace and fled into space without hesitation. At this time, Li Zhirui no longer cared whether he would be discovered or not. Saving his life was the most important thing. After all, he just smelled the breath of death. What happened? The cloud palace was blown to pieces. Li Zhirui, standing in the space, said to himself with lingering fear. Outside, the magic weapon that was originally used to protect everyone, at this moment, became the last straw that broke the camel's back. Perhaps some cultivators still had a breath in this devastating explosion, but they died under the flying magic weapon fragments. Dozens of creatures were suspended in the void, some were motionless and had become corpses, some still had weak breathing. And many cultivators, demon cultivators, and big monsters who could still stabilize their bodies were all injured, either lightly or heavily. No one was unscathed. Even an existence like Song Lao, who was about to ascend, was slightly injured. Just 2 cultivators caused huge casualties to Zuinun realm. Damn it! How did they break through the defense line and appear near Yun Palace? A certain demon cultivator roared in exasperation. Those people are staying on the defense line. Why don't you stop them? Like a mad lion, he looked at everyone with wide eyes, ready to devour anyone. There is no doubt that if someone dared to stand up, he would definitely pounce on them and tear them to pieces at the first time, no matter who the other party is. Let's save people and heal the wounds now. Song Lao stood up with a pale face, and took the cultivators who could still move to fly towards those creatures who were still breathing but fainted. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.